is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Iamaleava, end zone, diving attempt. It is caught for a touchdown. Chris Brazzell puts Tennessee back on top.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Cranks it up, goes downfield, and gets it complete. Here goes Restrepo again, spinning his way, kept his balance inside the 5.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
There was no defensive pass interference.
Oh, my goodness.
The ball will be at the 9-yard line.
Kirby Small won't leave it, so Villamagna, a discussion. They have changed the call, which is an enormous moment in this game.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
How about that spin move? Bryson Daly, and the Daly double across the goal line.
Now here's Paul Catalina.
Welcome in. It is a Smokeless Friday. And Garrett, since we did not have a Smokeless Friday last week because they were on Midway's bye week, I've decided that we need to pick an official, defunct, old-fashioned smokeless tobacco.
Okay.
For the pun to really land.
Correct.
Because I could go through all of them. You know, I could go through a lot, and we were doing that the other day. So I'm gonna give and Emery, I want your opinion on this too. I'm gonna go through 5 of them.
Okay.
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. I know which one is my favorite. That's pipe tobacco. Well, because that's not smokeless, so that would not count. Man, some of these are. There we go. All right. So the first one we have up for a selection is Kimball's Peerless, the best in chewing tobacco. No,
not Kim. I'm not a Kimball's guy.
What? Kimball's Peerless Tobacco.
That's better.
Yeah,
You're starting to sell me a little.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to save this one for the end. All right. How about Lucky Bill? No.
Nah.
Okay, not on Lucky Bill. Punch Plug Tobacco. And the poster is like,
Oh, I like that.
like this.
I like that.
Like 2 boxers, like the
bare knuckle
old-timey
action.
boxers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll sock you right in the kisser, see? Like that kind of a thing. Here's another one that's pretty basic. Union Standard chewing tobacco.
I don't trust the union.
Okay.
No.
No, you don't trust the Confederacy. That's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah. It's all good.
Okay. But this is my favorite one. Brown's Mule chewing tobacco.
Brown's Mule?
Yes.
No, that makes me think of like crap. I don't want to be dipping the mule crap.
Okay. I mean, it's a great picture. I'm gonna copy the image and send it to you.
I think I got to ride with the puncher so far.
Okay, so punch
Yeah.
punch chewing
There we
tobacco. All right, punch plug chewing tobacco. All right, let me see if they will let me. No, they will not let me save that. So I was going to give the so our Smokeless Fridays are brought to you by the official defunct smokeless tobacco, Punch Plug Tobacco. Punch Plug Tobacco. Enjoy now, lip cancer later. So yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but we're going for sort of like I'm going for like I've see Copenhagen suggested. I want defunct. Like I don't want to promote a brand here at all. A, I'm not for it. B, I'm not. They're not giving us any money. C, I don't think that they can. So like because of the laws. Mm-hmm. So that way I'll just say it's by a defunct one from the 1920s.
That's fair.
With the I'll just say a morally gray area on the poster. But, punch. I do wonder, why did people stop fighting like this?
I don't know.
Probably because it wasn't that effective.
Probably not. Too many overhands. Knock you out real quick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know why. But yes, punch. Plug tobacco. All righty. Let's get to the stack because I can make no more tobacco jokes.
Okay.
So on our way. So starting out, and this was controversial. We had Andrew Monaco on yesterday, and they literally dropped this right after he was on, but we didn't get to it. This is Tony Catalina. By the way, no relation, Tony Catalina. Let me give you he works for the Austin American-Statesman.
Okay.
So Tony is doing a podcast for me over at All In Network, the All In Cowboys podcast. Tony is from Boston. He was working with Blogging the Boys for a very long time. And then they reshuffled the deck when it came to podcasts. So RJ Ochoa, who's a very dear friend of mine, I said, hey, can you give me his name? He's like, yeah, are you guys cousins or anything? I said, no, my grandfather's name was Tony Catalina, but he's from Boston.
Right.
So we are not, as we can tell, related. Well, Garrett, where is my family from?
It's all from College Station. Which
All
made
from
me
College
wonder.
Station. Tony just got a job there for the Statesman and moved down. So he's about to meet
Just
a bunch of
fit all in,
Catalinas
huh?
that are going to get really confused. He'll be somewhere and he'll be like, Catalina party of two, and then they're going to sit him down, and they're like, oh, your cousin John's over here. He's like, we're different Catalinas. So apparently, when it comes to Italians, Catalina apparently, I went through my whole life not knowing any other Catalinas other than the ones never came across it in the phone book, nothing, ever. Then all of a sudden, I meet this guy, and we're not related. So it's like Jones or Smith for Italians.
It's pretty rare. I had never heard the name until you. You're
Yeah.
the only person I ever met with the name.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
funny.
So anyway, but this is my long-lost paisan, Tony. Great guy. Love him. We obviously became fast friends through our mutual love of the Cowboys and, our last name. But yeah, so Tony, this is Tony Catalina, and this is the first look at the A&M jerseys. Garrett, your thoughts on these? I think I'm not totally nuts about the helmets or the logo on the helmets, but I do think these look pretty smooth.
No, I mean, it's pretty simple. I like how they didn't really try to overdo it. I think you could have done. I honestly would have liked it if they would have took the white and outlined it with the maroon to make it pop a little more.
Yeah.
As far as the helmet goes, I kind of like the script Aggies. I think that you've seen a lot of the script style come back this year. It reminds me of Little League Baseball or something where you had the script across the jersey. No, I like the look. It's just not as clean as those white LSU ones.
Yeah, I would. I mean, it is. It's the blackout. It's all that. And yeah, it's going to be a great one. This is the best game in the country this week, as far as ranked versus ranked. But when we come to that, there's only a couple. Illinois, Oregon, A&M, LSU.
Yeah.
There's not Notre Dame, Navy. There's 3, maybe 4 ranked on ranked matchups this week. And that means we're probably going to have another week where nothing makes sense.
Oh, there's going to be some ridiculous upsets and all sorts of things. Yeah, it'll be utter chaos on Monday when the AP poll rolls out because that's how it always happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Garrett, I'll just say in the pick'ems, I'm going to ride with LSU. I'm a big history guy. A&M has never beaten LSU when they're both ranked.
Correct.
I think A&M's style of play is more efficient currently than LSU's, but I don't know what they're going to do about Kyron Lacey. That's a matchup I don't think works out well for them. And LSU's Blaine Baker's got everything kind of pointed in the right direction. I'm not sure A&M has the volume of playmakers to make a huge difference in this one. I do think it will be very close, though.
See, I'm the opposite here. Maybe it's just because I'm pessimistic and super nervous about this game, but I took A&M because I think A&M's defense, especially their defensive line, that's going to be a fun battle. The A&M defensive line versus LSU's offensive line is going to be remarkable. But I think A&M's got the guys up front that are going to make things difficult for Caden Durham to get loose. And I think if you look at the success LSU's been able to have, it's because Caden Durham finally got that rushing attack going where they haven't had that in the past couple of years, a real rushing attack outside of Jaden Daniels last year. But Nussmeier's not a mobile quarterback. So if A&M could shut down the LSU rushing attack, I think it's going to make it more difficult for LSU to move the ball on their defense. I like Mike Elko's style and approach to this. Him being a defensive-minded guy makes me kind of think the Aggies, plus that atmosphere and everything, I'm a little nervous. I took A&M to get this dub.
Okay,
it
hurts.
I
here's what I think. I think it's going to be very close. I don't think either of these teams has the capacity to be blown out. Like they're just good. They're just good teams. So I don't think it by that, but I do think. And if it's two quarterbacks who to me are very similar in Nuss and Wegman.
Oh, they're very similar.
They're very, very similar. And I would not be surprised to see Marcel Reed get some go in this one as well, just to change it up, especially in the red zone. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised. But, I mean, if you watched A&M versus Mississippi State last week, when they got down inside the 10, it was Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels just like, all right, then give them the ball and let them go score. They have not had this kind of rushing offense in a long time.
No, Moss is really good.
Yeah.
He's really fun to watch. I also think like another thing that kind of is against LSU is you're coming off of 2 back-to-back rivalry games. Mm-hmm. And how much energy did you exert in those? Especially, even I know the Arkansas game was more of a landslide, but that's still, to me, that's got to become a factor in there somewhere.
Yeah, and this one is so it's probably a bigger deal to A&M than it is to LSU.
Absolutely is.
But yeah, neither of them want to get that second loss. And they both so yeah. It's very close. Mm-hmm. And they're both like, if you really look at the teams, they're both similar, right? They're both very similar. So it's just, it's hard for me to peg how this is going to go down. Mm-hmm. They both have really good offensive lines. They both have
really good linebackers.
When Caden Durham is healthy, they both have really good running games. Outside of Caden Durham, what was surprising to me was I kind of thought LSU's offensive line the last couple of years might not have been as good as advertised. Mm-hmm. But when Caden Durham came in and started running the ball, it's like, oh no, they just, for whatever reason, a place that grew running backs, right? Dandelions. It just kind of pop, one goes away and spreads its seeds all over the place. And then all of a sudden, bummer, we lost this guy. Okay, well, now there's Leonard Fournette. Oh, Leonard Fournette's gone. Here's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Everything kind of worked out for them. So I'm just surprised to see that, especially under Brian Kelly, who had good running backs at Notre Dame, why they're whiffing on that position.
Well, they're going to make up for it. I think getting Durham in the building was definitely a fresh start. You got other guys coming in the recruiting classes that are going to be really, really good as well. I don't think they're going to miss on that position going forward, but you just kind of had that weird gap there where, for whatever reason, they couldn't find people in the secondary and they couldn't find running backs, and they're starting to get them.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that's the best game of the week. We'll get into some of the other ones here in a minute that are going on. Now, I know this is an NFL note, but because we were on uniforms and I saw this, I thought we absolutely had to show it. The Bucs are going to wear the creamsicles this weekend. This is a fantastic ad or promo for them with the old school phone, the headband. These were the uniforms. When I first moved down there, I went to my first Bucs game. These are the ones that they wore. The first Bucs game I saw was at the old Sombrero. You remember that? What stadium looked like this? And so at the Sombrero, my friend Zach Gill came up with us, and then a couple other people, my dad's friends, and we went to see the 49ers play the Bucs. Mm-hmm. And it was Steve Young and Jerry Rice and all this, and that crew. They were fantastic. Jerry Rice scored 5 touchdowns. I remember watching going, now I see it and I'm like, man, I'm so lucky I got to see. Not just if I would have seen Jerry Rice have 4 catches for 75 yards, great. That's fine enough. But to see one of his best individual games ever he absolutely dominated them. And it's like that by the 4th one, the announcer's like, touchdown, Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
And the Bucks were really bad. Like, that was before Warren Sapp, before all that stuff. They were an absolute laughingstock. I think it was towards the end of Vinny Testaverde's run there. They were just so bad. Their leading receiver, I'll never forget, was Sanjay Beach. And because they said his name so many times, I remember thinking, that's a funny name.
Yeah.
Just
but as far as those how do you like those uniforms better than like growing up?
Look,
I hated those when I was little.
Here's the thing, and it's pure nostalgia. It's pure nostalgia. I love them. I don't think they should wear them all the time. I like this. I'm more of the pewter power. I think that looks way better than these all the time. But I like that they can rep these a couple. I think they should do it. I think they should do it more than one time a year. I think they should wear
2 or 3 times.
I think they should do like this creamsicle, then they should do like the all whites with it, and then they should do it another time.
Yeah.
But that's just me there. But I love those uniforms. So I thought let's throw that up while we're talking about uniforms. All right. Let's talk about last night's game. Mm-hmm. So Andrew Filipponi, who goes by the Pony Express on Twitter, says, Pitt fans, this man is the man who will break your heart tonight, Kyle McCord, the best pocket quarterback in America. Unfortunately, he will lead the Orange to its first win in Pittsburgh since 2001, Syracuse 31, Pitt 30. Pat Narduzzi saw this and said, come on, Pony. And if you watched the game last night, this is like predicting Jill Stein's going to win the presidency. This was not a good prediction at all. Kyle McCord threw 5 interceptions, 3 of them returned for touchdowns. All of them set up points. It was a terrible night for Kyle McCord. He could not have been any worse. And I don't think it's an indictment on Kyle McCord. Overall, he's been really great with Syracuse. I think it is a compliment to Pat Narduzzi and Pitt's defense, and they are 7-0 now, and they are 8-0. Like they're undefeated, and they're a contender in the ACC. And they just took apart a Syracuse offense that's been really, really good this year and made Kyle McCord just fall apart. He threw that early pick 6, and then he never got it back mentally. They're in his head. He made a ton of bad throws. One of them was a tip pass that was returned for an interception, but even then, he was so off last night, he could have easily had 10 interceptions. And I remember looking at the box score at halftime to compare the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And the thing was, Eli Holstein's hardly played.
Didn't have to.
He didn't have to. It was 31-0 at halftime. They had scored 3 defensive touchdowns.
So, yeah, I'd gotten home, and I wanted to watch this game, and I flipped over, and it was about to go into halftime, and it was already over. And I was like, what the heck did I miss? So, I went back and looked. Yeah, McCord did not have his best night at all. It kind of made you think, because me and you have both been real high on Kyle McCord. A question
I just felt
he transfer out?
I just felt he was wronged.
Maybe.
I still do.
I still do, too. I don't think this is, indicative of who he is as a player. I think it's kind of one of those nights where somebody has your number, but at the same time, you could see some of the flaws in his game and why people were questioning if he was the guy at Ohio State, and you kind of see maybe why he hit the portal. But I think that Syracuse is still going to be fine, especially with Fran Brown trying to, just first year there, trying to get things going. They're going to be good, but it's more so on and like you mentioned, what Narduzzi's been able to do at Pitt this season. I think they're having one of those special years where you got the right quarterback in there. Everybody's bought in, because it seemed like last year at times Narduzzi kind of lost the locker room, and you were wondering if he was even going to make it. But for whatever reason, everybody's bought into what he's selling up there, and he's got the Panthers rolling.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Texas defensive back Andrew McCuba, listed as doubtful at Vanderbilt this weekend. There had been pessimism that he'd be able to play for the Horns. So bad news for Texas, but good news for El Rincon.
Yo.
Diego Pavia. He's obviously got another shot at it. This is Diego Pavia is a guy who grew up, idolizing Johnny Manziel. Mm-hmm. Johnny Manziel never played against Texas.
Nope.
Actually, Johnny Manziel grew up wanting to go to Texas.
Yeah.
Then they completely ignored him. And he went to A&M. So maybe, just maybe, he gets to do what Johnny never did. I think Texas bounces back this week. I feel bad for Vanderbilt that this is when they're getting Texas. I think you'd rather get somebody like they did. They got Georgia off a high.
Right.
Georgia had this exhilarating game against Georgia and won, and then they were able to play keep away from them for so long in the game and just took the wind out of their sails. Honestly, Alabama should have lost 3 games in a row right now. They really should have. South Carolina kind of bailed them out there at the end. But, yeah, I think that this – I still think it'll be interesting, and not having Mukuba, who's one of the best safeties in the country. It's fantastic. Transferred in from Clemson. He is an Austin native. Went back home to make the defense even that much better. I don't think Pete Kwiatkowski is going to miss a beat, but I do expect Vanderbilt to –
Oh, they're going to put up numbers.
They're going to put up some numbers. They're a good team. So
no, it's going to be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I think Texas, though, bounces back probably emphatically.
You're not going to lose to the state of Tennessee twice. I mean – no, wait, that was Georgia that beat them. But anyway, You're not going to lose to a team like Vanderbilt when you get beat by Georgia. I think that if they were able to pull that win off, then maybe Vandy would have a chance here. I still think Vanderbilt can put up some numbers on this team, but at the end of the day, Texas is so explosive, and while you're not going to have Mukuba, I don't think this is going to be a matchup where you're able to really exploit that if you're the Vandals. Commodores, so we'll see.
Yep. Grayson Grunhafer gave us this next stat. He is coming up here in just about half an hour. Baylor football home conference games. It says non-conference games, but these are conference games. Since October 22nd, 2022, they got rolled by Kansas State 31-3. They lost to TCU 29-28 in a game where TCU didn't take a timeout to kick a field goal. They lost to Texas 38-6. They lost to Texas Tech 39-14. They lost to Iowa State 38-18. They lost to Houston 25-24. They lost to West Virginia 34-31. Their last Big 12 Conference home win, October 22nd, 2022, 35-23 over Kansas. And had they not played really well in the second half, or had they not played really well in the first half, Kansas had made a, Jalen Daniels was playing in that game. They had made a push to come back. That was before, of course, the magical Kansas year of 2023. But this was the, hey, we're a bowl team now,
right?
Kansas team that they, honestly, I think Baylor scored 1 touchdown in the second half. It was 28-23 late, and then they scored and kind of put it away. But in the second half, Kansas had kind of exposed them a little bit. And then you see what happened after that for the last couple years. It's been not good.
No, it hasn't. And look, this is one against Oklahoma State that, Baylor has no reason to lose this game. And I think Craig laid it out pretty well the other day where he was talking about, all the goodwill you built up, you're going to lose if you lose this game against the Oklahoma State. I think, man, Alan Bowman, I don't trust him at all. I think the Baylor's defense can rattle him and make him throw a lot of interceptions. I still don't know how healthy Ollie Gordon is in this game. And if Baylor can contain him anyway, like they did Taj Brooks last week, that's definitely going to be beneficial to them. And honestly, if they could pop him a couple times early on and make him think, I think that can help them as well. I just don't know if you're going to see the same type of offensive explosion like you possibly should with as beat up as Oklahoma State's defense is. But I just need to see it from Baylor in back-to-back weeks before I can get confident in this team, really. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I think they're going to win, but I need to see some consistency, and they owe it to their fan base, in my opinion.
All right. Garrett, outside of LSU and A&M, is there a game that's better this week than the one that's happening tonight, Boise State and UNLV?
No, there's not. I don't think so. I think there's some other good matchups out there, but to me, those are the best 2 games of the weekend without a doubt. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if UNLV can hang with Boise, but I think Ashton Jitty, there's just going to be too much of him for them to slow down. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can't wait for it tonight. It's going to be a good one. And this is a really interesting weekend in the Big 12. We've talked about it a lot, and we'll talk about it later in the show with Josh Neighbors. But the most curious game is BYU and UCF.
Right.
Does BYU go in and on the road kick UCF while they're down, or does UCF pull themselves up off the mat? Can Baylor win 2 games in a row? Can they really do that? That's not something we've seen. Is Tech really on the way down? Can they go win on the road in Fort Worth? A lot of people picking TCU. West Virginia and Arizona, they both need to win really badly, especially West Virginia. Nothing's going to happen to Brent Brennan's year 1.
No, he's fine.
This game is not critical to him, but it's very critical to Neil Brown to get a win and get a win soon because they have not won in a little bit. Utah and Houston, Not a game I'm going to watch at all.
Not at all.
Just not. Kansas and Kansas State, I will take a little peek at. And then Cincinnati and Colorado. By the way, I went to see some of the 2:30 games because I'm going to Baylor and Oklahoma State this week. So I'll be making my first appearance and my second appearance the next 2 weeks at Baylor games. So
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I guess. I'm sitting in the stands, with people.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
I get that.
It's just, but yeah, I was like, when I was at that SMU game a few weeks ago, it was like I'm sure it was like when they like take a lion back out to the wild and they just kind of have to watch him. Like, all right, he's not getting fed. Can he like hunt? Can he hunt?
Figure it out. Yes.
I was just, that was me the whole time. So yeah, we'll see how I do in a different environment.
Right. I think you can handle it.
So I've been to plenty of baseball games and sat in the stands, and that's never been a thing for me. Mm-hmm. But baseball is it's
different.
It's like I like to go to baseball because it relaxes me, and then it gets exciting in periods. Mm-hmm. So, but like football's like in basketball are tense the whole time. Basketball, I was in Allen Fieldhouse, and one of those damn gnats just went up my nose. Oh, it burns! It burns. Oh.
You good?
God, no. I'm going to have to – let's go to break so I can take care of this before we get Sam Kahn on. I'll
break it.
It's 365 Sports.
LowT.com can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Hi, this is David Smoke. As you get older, usually upper 30s, but most likely in your 40s and eventually the 50s, when you get your testosterone checked, 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have low testosterone levels. It's part of father time. It's just living life. And that clock starts to tick. Maybe you're fortunate it doesn't have any effect on you. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. If they get the results Dr. Petty does, he'll look at them, and then if you need testosterone boost, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hotter than ever. Drive a new 2024 Jeep Compass Latitude for only $24,995. Or how about leasing a new Fiat 500e for only $149 a month? Whether you're ready for an adventure in a Jeep or zipping around in a stylish Fiat, we've got you covered. Hurry to Allen Samuels in Waco today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Ghost Hydration is a fully transparent, fully loaded, full-flavored hydration drink that we've all been waiting for. Ghost is caffeine-free with electrolytes, 0 sugar, and low sodium that'll hydrate your body before, during, and after your workout. Consumer loved with authentic flavors, so grab and enjoy a Sour Patch Kids Blue Raspberry and Red Berry, along with the Kiwi Strawberry, Orange Squeeze, or Lemon Lime. Ghost Hydration can truly be used anytime. Remember, it's formulated for sports, but made for life.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
When you work with a bank, you should expect the best of everything. That includes face-to-face personal service and the kind of community banking care that only comes from one neighbor to another. That's exactly what you'll get from the First National Bank of Central Texas, where you will know your banker works just as hard as you do. Once again, that's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Settle for nothing less than the first. Member FDIC.
Live Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So thank you for sticking with us after the break. For sticking with us after the break there. That might have been one of those gnats right there. Sam, I don't know if you were watching right before we went to the break, but is that Sam's mic or is that my mic?
I got Sam's.
Oh, yeah.
I got a mic issue?
Yes, you do.
Give me a second.
Okay. Here, go ahead and, he's... But before the break, a gnat, we've had a problem the last 2 weeks. It appears to be slightly lessening. Like today hasn't been that bad overall, but one flew right up into my nose. And it was one of the worst things that's ever happened to me in my life. Like it's probably living in my brain right now. Sam, give us a test here.
Unmute, Sam.
Oh, yeah. So, but yes, one flew right up into my nose right before the break.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's way better. There we go.
No, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think we're okay on our end. So, let's see. Sam, go out and go back in. See what happens then. Yeah, we'll do that. But yes, it flew right into my nose. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if I'll ever recover emotionally from it, but it was bad. Garrett and Emory, made their day.
It did.
And I am almost positive that Emory has already clipped it to save for posterity.
And you were just talking about having the bug fly in your mouth at one time.
Yeah, I did. That was a couple years ago. It flew in my mouth. And that one was just kind of a random, we weren't having a problem. It just flew right in my mouth. So, yeah. So while we wait for Sam to hop back in and fix his issue. But yeah, it was not good. Everybody's giving us, we have all these little red apple things around here.
Nothing is working, people.
And nothing's we've poured vinegar. Today I went and got a bunch of bleach. Mm-hmm. And so we haven't had a freeze yet. So we're washing bugs. We're probably not going to have one anytime soon. So
all right, let's try this.
Yeah. All right. Sam is back with us. Sam, is this all better now?
I think so. Is my mic freaking out or no?
Wonderful.
You're good.
No, sounds great. But yes, we are.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it happens. We have been besieged by gnats here. It's a war at this point. We've got apple cider vinegar traps all over the place. We have the traps, and then we have the little stuff that goes in the traps. We've just opened those up, and hopefully the gnats will go and they'll go, oh, hey, is that apple juice? And then die. Drains. We have the exterminator come twice, but right before the break, one flew in my nose, and I thought I was going to have a stroke. But I'm okay. I've made it through. I'm alive.
Good deal. Yeah. I don't know what happened. This mic, I don't know why it was freaking out. I've had it for a couple of years now. This is actually the one the Athletic sent me when I started doing podcasts there. And then I couldn't hear you in my headphones. These are headphones that I bought, but I don't know. As long as we're up and running, we're good. It's Friday.
Yeah.
It's Friday afternoon.
It is. Sam, are you going to make your way to A&M and LSU tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow night for sure, front and center, Kyle Field.
Okay, so saw a stat this week, A&M 0-8 against LSU when they've played as ranked opponents. It might have been from you. As a matter of fact, I think it might have been. So that is not great for the Aggies. What makes this one different?
I don't know that it will be. I do think that this team is a little bit more disciplined. I think it plays a cleaner brand of ball than we've seen the last few years. I don't really want to draw conclusions about what happened in the Kevin Sumlin era because they didn't beat LSU the entirety of the Kevin Sumlin era. So that's where a lot of those matchups came in because A&M was ranked in a lot of those games and ended up face planting just because they could never get over the hump. It wasn't until Jimbo Fisher's first year that they ended up beating LSU in that 7 overtime game. They went 74-72. So I don't know that you can draw a lot of conclusions from it historically. I think the biggest thing is that LSU has just been more talented. It's just been a better team typically than A&M in most cases. But this is now, I think, a little bit more evenly matched in that LSU is still a really good team, a top 10 team, but I think A&M is still really talented. I think you guys talked about it earlier this week. There's still some lingering talent that came from some of those highly ranked recruiting classes there. They did a really good job in the portal this offseason, and they seem to have a really solid identity that they found both defensively and offensively. I think what they're doing with the offense and Colin Klein and Connor Wegman and all that crew has been solid. And I think defensively, that's really what they're hanging their hat on. And I think more than anything, this team defensively is going to be able to keep itself in the game, I think.
Yeah, I'm just very impressed with what Mike Elko has done already. They clearly needed a refresh there. Like, it just culture-wise, all of that, it just they appear to be, kind of back to the A&M we knew a little bit. Now, do you think that there's a talent gap at all between these two teams, or are they about even right now?
No, I think it's fairly similar. I think you may give LSU the edge a little bit just because they have continued to recruit at a high level, year after year after year, and they so often get not just the best in their own state, but they're able to come and get some big time guys from the state of Texas as well and other parts of SEC country. So if there's a talent gap, I don't think it's a very big one. It's certainly not one that's insurmountable for A&M. I think people forget how many high-level players are still on this A&M roster, particularly on the defensive line, and they shorted up. If there's a spot that I would be curious or that I would say that there is a little bit of a talent gap, I think it's probably at the skill positions offensively. I think LSU is just a little bit better at the offensive skill as a whole than A&M is at this point. But you talk about like defense and other spots, I think A&M holds it pretty well.
Baylor put up 59 against Texas Tech last week. It's like everything that's been like left on the table all year just came out last week in Lubbock. The second win in a row they've had in Lubbock, a place that before they started playing at AT&T Stadium, they really didn't ever play well there historically. And now Dave Aranda's done well in his 2 trips out to Lubbock. Oklahoma State comes in reeling, made a quarterback change that was going to work. Then Garrett Rangel gets hurt. This is a battle of 3 and 4 teams. Is Baylor legitimately on the up if they can win this one? And where is Oklahoma State right now? Can they, even having to go back to a quarterback they decided to bench, can they really get anything going?
Yeah, if Baylor wins this one, then I think you have to feel optimistic for them down the stretch, because this is a team that we have seen play good in stretches, but they just haven't been able to put it together for 4 quarters all year. And finally, against Texas Tech, that's what we saw. We saw 4 good quarters of football that they strung together. It wasn't, hey, we played good for the first half and then we gave up a double-digit lead, or we sleptwalked through the first quarter and a half and then came back into it. They actually played really good ball. And the play that Sawyer Robertson has had in this offense under Jake Spavital, you look at his touchdown interception ratio, I think it's 14-3. I think it's the second best touchdown interception ratio in the Big 12. He's playing really good ball. And I will say from the moment that he stepped in, it hadn't been perfect at all points, but you just saw more upside with this offense with him in it. So if you're able to beat Oklahoma State this weekend, you look at the back 4 games of the schedule, TCU, West Virginia, Houston, Kansas, there's opportunities there to really get on a roll if you're Baylor. As for Oklahoma State, they're 0-4 in conference. This is the first time since 2005 that they've started conference play with 4 straight losses. That's Mike Gundy's first year there, and it's the longest conference losing streak they've had in a decade. I thought the move to Rangel was good. He definitely provided a spark. Unfortunately, the collarbone injury knocks him out for the rest of the year. But I thought Bowman showed some real resilience in the second half of that game and had them in position to win. I mean, it took some heroics from Jake Retzloff and BYU at the end to pull that game out. So there's clearly still some fight there, but this game to me kind of will give me a sense for, is there still fight? Are they going to continue to fight, or are they just not completely deflated?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens there tomorrow. Tech, they really took it on the chin last week. I think they were. I mean, if you looked at Joey McGuire's face after that game, it was gut wrenching to just look. I mean, just to watch him at the end of that game. TCU 13-7 last week over Utah, which I don't know what to make of that at all. It doesn't. It's one of those things that you kind of have to say, well, it's probably an outlier for how this season goes. So TCU needs to, like, a lot like Baylor, like, win a couple games in a row, like, string something together, and Tech just needs to get up off the mat. Is this going to be a game with both these offenses that throw so well, and particularly with Tech that they run so well? TCU doesn't do that. But is this going to be a 48-45 kind of a thing?
I'd be stunned. I hate to say this. I'd be stunned if TCU can score 48 points. I mean, they struggled to move and score the football against Utah last week. If Utah had any kind of offense, they would have won that game. It was – I think TCU averaged like 5.3 yards per play, and I think they've got talent on that side, and we've seen what Josh Hoover can do, but for whatever reason, they have not lately turned it into production and points. I mean, they struggled to score against Houston. They struggled to score against Utah. So I'm not certain if Tech gets this game in the 30s or 40s, that TCU is going to hang in there. That said, I say that about a Tech defense that just gave up 59 points and has given up the second most explosive plays in the Big 12 all season long. So I still will give the edge to Tech here just because I think overall their body of work for the course of the season is better. They had that one was a really – the thing is when they've been bad, they've been really bad. When they were bad against Wazoo, granted with Taj Brooks was out, and they were bad against Baylor. But outside of those two, they've actually played decent ball, whereas TCU, I feel like, has just the vibes just haven't been right. And I know they won that game. I think that was much needed for them, but I'm not convinced that they're fully out of the woods yet. Now, if they beat Tech, then okay, maybe you can build on this, but I'm still not all the way convinced yet on TCU.
TCU is 7-point favorites right now in this game, and
That's
that it is wild. I mean, maybe we don't know something about Tech right now. But
is Baron Morton out? Is that way? Is Baron Morton out? We don't know it. I'm not spreading rumors. I have no idea. But that would be the kind of that would be the kind of thing you would expect if for this kind of spread. But UCF's favored over BYU, so in BYU 7-0. So I don't know. Vegas is a lot smarter than us because they make the money. So
yeah, absolutely. How critical are the next couple of weeks for Neil Brown?
Gosh. I wonder if we've gotten past that point. The vibes there are so bad right now, just because of not just that they've lost, but in the way they've lost at times. And I think it goes all the way back to backyard brawl in the way they lost that game early in the year. But he needs a strong finish, and they've got with the road game against Arizona this weekend. This is an opportunity. It's a long trip for them. But they've got to pull this one out. And then you look at the back end of that, Baylor, UCF, Texas Tech. You got to at least get to a bowl game if you're West Virginia, if you're Neil Brown. Can they do that? I think they can. But, again, I don't know that they've played consistently enough to convince me they can do it. So, yeah, this back half of the schedule is critical for him. It's critical for that program. But just between the way they've lost some of these games and some of the comments that he's had, which I don't think are bad. It's just the way the fans are taking them. It's the way you view things. When things are great, then it's all well and good. And when things are not, then people are going to nitpick everything you say. So this is such a big stretch for him and for this team.
Yeah. When he's saying, did everybody have a good time? That's not coach who's thinking about, better ways to win the game. He's just trying to deflect at that point because he doesn't have answers either. And maybe I like Neil Brown a lot. I thought after last year he had kind of, reinvigorated it. But, Sam, they've never really, in these last 2 years, they've not really beaten a good team. And they haven't necessarily lost to, this year they haven't lost any bad teams, so that's good. But they're not beating good teams. And if you have a schedule, especially now with 16-team leagues, anybody can do this. You're going to have a great year and have a schedule that only included a couple of really scary teams. And then you can the next year it comes back around and your schedule is completely full of tough games, which West Virginia has this year, and then it shows.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, I think their schedule has been tough. I think each of the last 2 years, they've played 11 Power 5 teams in their 12 regular season games. I don't know of any other teams that are doing that. So, and I commend them for it in that those non-conference Power 5s are really good games, and they kept the backyard brawl, brought the backyard brawl back, which to me is important, and I think it's critical but it can work against you because you don't get to beat up on an FCS and a couple of G5s before you get to your conference schedule, which in the Big 12 is still pretty tough. And so on one hand, I admire him, but on the other, it's worked against him a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Colorado and Cincinnati this week. Do you think Cincinnati has a chance to hang in this one, or is Colorado maybe hitting their stride?
No, I think Cincinnati does. I've really been impressed with what they've done in year 2 under Satterfield. I did not have high hopes for the Bearcats coming into this year, and I would even stand to reason that a lot of the fans weren't super optimistic about it. But I know they felt really good about Brennan Sorsby when they brought him in, and he's a multi-year guy. Like, he'll be there for a few years. And I think they were looking at him long-term as like, hey, this guy for the next couple of years is going to be really good. But he's been great right out of the chute and has played some really good ball for them throughout this season. And he, to me, gives them a chance. That said, against Colorado, you've got to cover their skill, man. They're so skilled offensively. Shedeur is such a playmaker, and he's so clutch in the big moments. They're a really tough team to take, and going on the road, and it's a late night game. The crowd's going to be rocking. It's a tough spot for Cincinnati for sure, but these are two teams that have earned their place where they are right now, and the winner of this game is going to be very much in the mix for going to AT&T Stadium, as we head into November. And who would have pegged that at this point? Who would have, at the start of the season, who would have said Colorado and Cincinnati would be a pivotal game on the schedule on October 26th?
Yeah, absolutely. Does Kansas have a chance to beat Kansas State?
Yeah, it's a rivalry game. I mean, if they play like they did last weekend, granted it was against Houston, who's at the bottom of the conference, Jalen Daniels finally looked like Jalen Daniels to me. And so if you can get that, if you can get Devin Neal going the way he did, then it's a rivalry game. You got a chance. That said, this K-State team has dominated this rivalry for quite some time. And I think they're continuing to play better. I think you start to see I think Chris Kleiman teams every single year, they have a hiccup in the first half of the season, and then they just get better, and they quietly get better. And I think we're hitting that point in the schedule where they're starting to really, Avery Johnson starting to hit his stride. He had almost 300 yards passing last week. So you can feel them really getting. I still think K-State will win this one, but no, it wouldn't shock me if this game is interesting at the end of the day, just because in-state rivalries, man, you never know.
Can Vanderbilt pull off another one?
As long as Diego Pavia is taking snaps, I guess you can't count it out, right? I think Texas's talent overall is going to just be a little bit much, but you would have thought that against Alabama, and Pavia kept him in it in that game as well. And to me, here's Vanderbilt's recipe for an upset beyond Pavia playing like he did against Alabama is, I think, early success defensively. Clark Lee's a defensive coach. They've done a pretty solid job there. And Texas has had some slow starts lately. They had a slow start against Red River. They had a slow start against Mississippi State. They had a slow start last week against Georgia. It finally came up to bite them against Georgia. And I thought they bounced back really well in the second half. But if they start slow again and they have 3 or 4 empty possessions to start the game, and Vanderbilt's able to capitalize on that, and it's on the road, and you're in this makeshift stadium that's got construction going on, and who knows? But at the end of the day, I still think Texas is a better team, and I think they will respond. I thought last year when they had their one hiccup against Oklahoma, I thought they responded really well, and they finished out pretty strong. But no, Vanderbilt's a top 25 team for a reason, and so if they're in it, I wouldn't be stunned.
Sam Kahn of The Athletic. Sam, Garrett will be at the game tomorrow, so you can I get break bread with him. I don't know what they're I've not gotten to cover an A&M game since they moved into the fancy new press box on the other side of the stadium. Well above, like, it feels like you're in a skyscraper when you're in there.
Well, when it shakes, it's not very comforting.
No,
I don't like that.
No, I would assume not. The other one shook too. I mean, which wasn't that. It just wasn't, I'm sure, that bad because it's,
that's the thing is when they built the new one, I was like, well, it shouldn't shake anymore, right? No, it still shakes. when they play the war hymn at the start of the fourth quarter, or they do the introduction with power, or if they play Mo Bamba on third down, that thing is shaking. And I'm just a little uncomfortable with being nine stories high and the facility that I'm in shaky. Like that just doesn't sit right with me. But it's all really cool. Like it's part of the cool atmosphere that is at Kyle Field.
Yeah, they're like, why would we take the loop-de-loop out of the roller coaster? No, it's the of course people get stuck upside down sometimes, but we're not taking that out. I mean, that's dumb. Why would we do that? Sam, enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Sam Kahn of The Athletic. Next up, Grayson Grundhafer, SicEm365.com.
Now been a part of about, 5 or 6, 7 auctions, live auctions online. TexasBeefHouse.com. Their Angus cattle, the ranch just outside of Tyler, the Wagyu beef that they make available. And the best part of it is you get to buy whatever you want for how much you want to pay each month, sometimes once or twice. In this month in October, 3 live auctions. So I sent Aaron Duvall and Samantha Duvall this text. I've learned the auction game. Finally wore somebody else out to get some great-looking ribeyes and fillets. And Aaron Duvall responded, the owner of TexasBeefHouse.com and the Duvall Ranch. I heard you were after them. Congratulations. Appreciate all you do for our company. It's easy. TexasBeefHouse.com is fantastic. Farm-raised from start to finish. Angus cattle, Wagyu beef, and it's not just the steaks, but brisket and tri-tip and roast, hamburger patties. And each auction provides some other opportunity for you to get what you want and pay what you want. Not a sticker that is on a package of steaks or whatever inside of a store. I was so excited. I got an immediate text that said, and if anyone tried to outbid me, I would know. And then I got an immediate text and then an email. Paid. Bid on Beef is who runs the live auctions for TexasBeefHouse.com. Get what you want and pay what you want. And if the price gets too high in an auction, walk away. Get it next time at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford. Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, season these marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue, cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome into Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com. And Grayson, we saw a carnival of points last week in Lubbock from the Baylor offense, a great special teams performance. Josh Cameron, conducted his opus. He might have several other good games down the stretch, but it was great to see for a guy who is a former walk-on, who's worked harder than probably anybody on that roster to get to that point, have that kind of a game. I think, especially since he is so well-liked, that's going to buoy them. I have many thoughts on this, and this is a time where they can maybe finally go on a winning streak given the schedule. It's just weird saying this, but this is the most important game they've probably played in the last decade against a 3-4 team.
It definitely is. I think in general, as you kind of alluded to, that Texas Tech game, it can quickly be forgotten if they don't come out and play well against Oklahoma State and come away with a win. It's been 2 years since fans have left McLean Stadium with a Big 12 conference win. And that is pretty crazy to think about. The last time they won was in late October against Kansas in 2022. This is an opportunity to kind of right that ship a little bit. And they're going to have a couple opportunities because TCU next week, obviously 1-9 in the last 10 against TCU. And then you go to Morgantown. You've never won in Morgantown before. So lots of opportunities here to get right. I think just for Baylor in general, it's about building on the performance they had last week. And truthfully, against the team that they're playing against in Oklahoma State, this feels like a game they really need to win. Just, for the fans, for the home crowd, for it being homecoming, for an opportunity to kind of get rid of that losing feeling at home. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think that if they can get this one, then it opens up the door for a lot of better things. It's great news for the coaching staff. If they don't, last week doesn't matter all that much anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't. And then it kind of leads you into, the more that I looked at this kind of schedule and the way this season was going to play out, I had them beating Texas Tech last week and kind of thinking that was the game they had to win. But as you look forward into the schedule, it's like, well, you really need to win one of these next two games, at least against Oklahoma State and TCU, two teams that are big time rivals for you, honestly. And guys, schools that you recruit against very often. And so, yeah, these are some big ones for them. And I do think you're exactly right. You come home after this great performance on the road, and then in front of your home fans, you just kind of lay an egg. That would be really disappointing. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, it just kind of be like, oh, last weekend was a fluke.
Yeah. So last week we saw Sawyer Robertson continue to come into his own. I think Bryson Washington established himself as the lead dog in the running game. What else did you see last week that this team's maybe needed to do or hasn't been able to do that turned around?
I think getting guys healthy was a big thing. Caden Jenkins probably was the best player on the field for Baylor last game, and that's pretty crazy to say given that Sawyer played so well, but Caden was awesome in that football game, also had the interception, and obviously they didn't have him for a little bit. And so getting him back was big. I felt like Carl Williams is finally starting to turn the corner from getting injured in that Tarleton State game. He's starting to get healthier, and he was supposed to be one of their best defense players, if not their best defense player. And so getting those guys back, I think, was key for that particular game. And then as far as the other things that you mentioned, the run game getting going was huge, and they added some off-tackle runs that I think really kind of tricked out Texas Tech a little bit, and also just gave them opportunities to, I think, just take advantage of the defense that they saw. Because for the majority of the year, it was literally just inside zone, straight up the middle. So getting a little diverse with the run game, I think, will help open up some things and hopefully help them in the run game going forward. Because I do think that if this team's able to run the football, I think Sawyer and the offensive line have proven to be good enough that they can really take advantage of that. But if they're not running the football and you allow the defense to kind of pin their ears back and get after Sawyer and, make things tough for the receivers, then the passing game can kind of go off the rails at times. Even though Sawyer's been able to control it, it has felt, at times in games, you look at the second half against Iowa State, you look at, the first quarter against BYU, they had struggles. And so if you're able to run the football, I think it really alleviates some of those struggles and takes a lot of pressure off Sawyer Robertson and allows him to, I think, perform at his highest level.
How important is it for them to – is it more important for them to get Alan Bowman off kilter or do what most teams this year have done and not allow them to run the ball with Ollie Gordon?
Don't allow him to run the football. It's exactly what they tried to do against Texas Tech, and I think they succeeded at it. I know that you look at the box score and Taj Brooks had 125 yards and a touchdown. That's fine, but you never felt like he was taking over that football game. And that's how Baylor, I think, needs to approach this week. If you're going to make someone beat you, it needs to be Alan Bowman. You cannot allow Ollie Gordon to run for 150, 200 yards on you. If you allow that, then it opens up more for their offense. It takes a lot of pressure off Alan Bowman and might allow him to be more efficient. And this is a guy that's thrown 7 interceptions their last 4 games. So, yeah, I think you definitely want to make him beat you and make him consistently drive them down the field without making mistakes. I think that's certainly a key to the game because I do think after last week, Oklahoma State's really going to try to get back to running the football effectively because they haven't done that all year outside of last week.
Yeah. I do like it's the thing that sucks for if you're Oklahoma State is that they've got these 3 really good wide receivers and they've got a quarterback who can occasionally get the ball out to them, but hasn't really. And then the hope is that everybody commits so hard to Ollie Gordon that Alan Bowman and his nearly 1-to-1 TD to INT ratio wasn't going to be a big deal. Well, that's not worked out for them. Plus, for Baylor offensively, they just need to go score on a defense that everybody is scoring on. You have to just do what everybody else has done. This seems like a pretty cut and dry thing, but I think the pit's in everybody's stomach about, they just don't beat these conference teams at home the last 2 years.
You're exactly right. I think that's where the vibes kind of get thrown off a little bit. It's just because, everything points to Baylor having success here. This doesn't feel like a bigger challenge than last week against Tech, and now you're getting them at home. But it is one of those things where you're facing a program that has consistently won games like this. When their back is against the wall, they find ways to win these type of football games and eventually make a bowl game, which I think is disappointing this year because most years this is, a 9-10 win type program. 8 is usually their floor. And so this year they're having a bad year, but they still want to make a bowl game. And they still have a coach that's kept them, I think, pretty locked in. We'll see if that changes this week. But I think in general, that's the thing that I think scares people and certainly gives me some pause when I'm picking this game because maybe Alan Bowman just has a great performance. Maybe Ollie Gordon's able to run the football pretty consistently. And maybe Baylor's offense just isn't able to deal with Oklahoma State's defensive line like they were against Texas Tech. Those are all concerns for me, but I think in general, this game does set up very well for Baylor. If you look at what Oklahoma State's done all year, what Baylor has honestly done all year, and then you look at last week and the current trends, it just feels like these are 2 teams trending in very different directions, and that should mean very good things for Baylor, but there are reasons for concern. And you mentioned the receivers for Oklahoma State. That's a big concern of mine, but if you kind of look a little bit deeper into what happened last year, this Oklahoma State team, when you look at SP Plus and the numbers, is relatively similar to this year's team. So the 2 are very comparable. It's just last year's team won a lot of close games and ended up 10-4. But their quarterback was still 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So this wasn't a huge shift outside of their run game. That's the one thing that they were just dominant towards the end of the year. And then you look at this year and they're just not able to run the football. And that makes kind of the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's team. And that's why I think Baylor definitely needs to make that the focal point of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Grayson, they put together 4 quarters last week. 4 quarters. It wasn't like this wasn't one big half and then, scurriedly or like holding on to something. This was 4 quarters, and not just 4 random quarters from 4 games that they played this year, because that was kind of how it felt. What do you think that does for the confidence of a team? That's kind of what we kept hearing from Dave Aranda was just get like one full game together. He like kind of was like, if they could just get one full game together, he thinks he could break through that wall that they've been hitting.
Right. And I mean, it's all about confidence, right? You know, this program, just the last year and a half, it's just been really hard because you lose all these games. You've had a couple close ones that you let slip away. You're just not quite used to winning. And it really bleeds into the end of the 2022 season, of course. But I think you need to see wins. You need to see positive results and positivity and momentum right on the field. And I think that's the biggest thing with this is you've proven you can do it. You've proven that you can put together 4 quarters. You're not a team that's, gonna lose every close game. You can try to put that behind you now, and then move forward to just kind of building off of it, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. It's proof of concept, and I think that's huge when guys get to see that and rally behind that and feel like, okay, now there's some momentum to build behind. There's substance here. There's a win, and now can we build on that? Can we get better? And that's something that I think, the offense and the defense from Dave Aranda to Jake Spavital, they've talked about that. Building on these performances, getting more consistent, and then hopefully having success at the end of the day. And I think that's what they're leaning towards, and that's what they're trending towards. But again, you got to take care of business at home, and Baylor hasn't been able to do that the last 2 years. Yeah,
I think people can go look at our predictions on SicEm365.com, so they can go look at that and see what we did. Not to give it away, but this is the first time this season where we've all kind of overwhelmingly been in the Baylor camp, and it hasn't been split. So, I mean, people can read the individual ones. I will tell you my favorite is Emory's. Emory, of all the teams Baylor plays, like, he hates Oklahoma State more than I think TCU. Because he grew up in Oklahoma, he hates the Pokes. Hates them.
Wow.
So,
that's,
yeah.
I mean, I've never heard that from a Baylor fan, that their most hated team is Oklahoma State. It's
Am I
normally,
wrong, Emory? Am I wrong?
Oh, no, I can't stand it.
Yeah, that's it. Most people would put them like 3rd or 4th, maybe.
May if that. I mean,
like most of it, like TCU and Tech and
Texas,
A&M. Like,
yeah.
Even though it's been like that one's waning because they haven't played in so long, but there's still disdain.
Oh, it's not waning. It's still very much there. Yeah, it very much is. But yeah, I picked Baylor to win this week as well, Paul, as you saw in there. A lot of double-digit victories predicted by the staff. We've been pretty good this year as a staff. Like, our overall numbers, a lot of people are 5-2 or 6-1. So I think we've been pretty spot on with the trends, and the few that we've missed have been most of those have been close games. I think the 2 that I missed happen to be Colorado and BYU, which is super unfortunate because those were 2 games that really came down to a coin flip. But yeah, I think Baylor's going to win this game. I have them as a 10-point winner. It's currently a 7-point spread, which has continued to rise throughout the week from 3.5. And I mainly think that Baylor's offense is going to have a lot of success. Sawyer Robertson's playing like a top 5 quarterback in the Big 12. And I expect Dave Aranda to have a pretty good game plan for what he's going to see from Oklahoma State to at least limit them and to force enough turnovers that I think Baylor will push it a little bit and put a little separation between them and Oklahoma State.
Grayson Grunhaver, SicEm365.com. Grayson, enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll talk to you next week. Next up, Peyton Soysher of RankingsRightNow.com.
It is homecoming weekend. Baylor University hosting Oklahoma State Saturday afternoon, 2:30 at McLean Stadium. But there's a lot more going on than just the game on Saturday, and especially at the Baylor Club, located inside McLean Stadium. Kick off your homecoming weekend today and get hyped for the big game. Epic club table, the Baylor Spirit Squad, and live music by Trevor Hickok. Don't miss on the ultimate pregame party. That's where the fun begins on Friday from 5:30 until 8:30. Adults $30, kids $5 to $12.15. The menu. Whew. Man, have they got themselves something going. Great chefs, great cuisine. Check out the new menu filled with exciting dishes, delicious twist on classic favorites. Come taste what is new. Don't miss the perfect way to wrap up the homecoming week. Join the Baylor Club for the Bear Brunch on Sunday. After the homecoming game, bring the family, enjoy a delicious spread to end the week at a high note. Brunch for everyone will be, of course, talking about. Sunday, that's from 10:30 until 1:30. Adults $35, kids $17. McLean Stadium, a perfect spot to relax and refuel after the homecoming parade. Get ready for the game. Complimentary entrees for you and 2 guests. Additional guests for just $10 each. Food and drink tickets will be available. That's from 11:30 up until kickoff at 2:30. What a great place. What a great atmosphere. What great views. What a great way to spend the weekend, homecoming weekend, at the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. Memberships available.
Announcing Genco's Car Hugger Special. Right now, refinance your auto loan at Genco and get 3 months of no car payments. Plus, your loan will be automatically entered for a chance to win your next 3 car payments on us. Enjoy 5.19% for 48 months and then skip your payments until 2025. Subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
No, just me. Smokeless Fridays, brought to you by the now defunct Punch Tobacco. We found that earlier, Peyton.
How much time do you spend on this?
More than I should. More than I should. I mean, admittedly, it's not like I'm not totally proud of it, but
just grinding, looking for smokeless tobacco.
Yes, I mean, I want the joke to land.
Yes,
as much as I can.
Mission accomplished, sir.
Thank you. But we did like the poster, which was old timey boxing.
It looks pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
if anything, you got to give a credit to that.
Yeah, I still wonder. I would like to know. I need to talk to an old timey boxing expert. Like, why did this go out and it changed?
Oh yeah. You can't possibly have a good reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know. Do you lead with your? I don't know. There's a lot of questions I have about it. Peyton, let me ask you this before we get into the rankings this week. You are a dyed-in-the-wool Mets fan. The World Series is the Dodgers who beat the Mets and the Yankees who you hate. What? I'm a Red Sox guy. Mookie Betts plays over there. Dave Roberts, who was very important to the 2004 Red Sox, is the manager. So I'm fine with the Dodgers winning. I'm not fine with the Yankees winning anything. If the Yankees were a little league team, I would want them to lose to Puerto Rico in the finals. I kind of got a little
turned off by saying like, hey, I'm a Red Sox fan, but I still like Mookie, right? Because that kind of was like a weird ending, wasn't it?
It's not Mookie's fault. It's not Mookie's fault. It's the Red Sox fault.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Sure. Okay. I said the same thing a couple of weeks ago. I love good ball, regardless. Shohei's amazing. Judge is super cool. Like it's gonna be. You have big names, and I think it's actually really good for MLB baseball that it ended up with these two because they have the two most marketable stars in the game with Judge and Ohtani. So I'm also from Denver, so I'm not totally in love with the Dodgers just because they just dominate the NL West every single year. It gets a little old. We lived in San Diego for a little bit, so that also kind of like heated things up. So as much of a Mets fan that I am, I might still be going Yankees in this situation.
Oh, all right. I mean, we'll get through. We'll get through this together,
scenario.
We'll get through it. Look, nothing is irreparable. So we'll keep moving on. Okay, you got a little excited, and we thought maybe that the playoff rankings coming out this week. They're not. They're coming out next week. But this is what you've been. This 12-team playoff is what you've built. Like, this is what you're waiting for. So it's not surprising you might get a little ahead of yourself. So this is a critical week, though.
Yeah.
Because of that, into seeing where these things are starting to go. And I think we saw last week that there's nobody that's going to have maybe a big resume punch all year long if they don't go undefeated. Like, everybody's going to have the same kind of, that wasn't great. So this week, I mean, the top 7 or 8, you've got A&M winning this week. We'll talk about that game in a second. But was there any kind of surprising shift to you at all this week, anywhere around?
The most obvious is BYU. BYU is the underdog here, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess because they're on the road.
Right? But I'm asking my neighbors, I'm asking family members, like, what is going on here? And no one has a reasonable explanation. So, and it's not like UCF has played great at home. CU came in there and knocked them all around, no problem. So, and I think if you want to say, well, who's the better team in that division between CU and BYU? I don't know too many people who are picking CU. So that doesn't make any sense to me. So with that loss, BYU is going to drop. And I'm curious, the algorithm thinks that they're going to drop significantly, but I don't know why in this scenario. They're going to drop to 22, by the way. So drop 11 slots, which is aggressive. I don't know if it'll be that aggressive. I might say that 17, 18 range. But if you just think about it from like on paper, BYU loses to 3 and 4 UCF. They should drop pretty heavy, right? Like that to me seems like that's a bad loss. But Vegas and ESPN analytics both say UCF is going to win this game. So I don't know what to think right here. That's by far my biggest, I don't know what to really make of it.
Yeah. I don't get it at all. I really don't. You have Notre Dame winning but dropping a spot. Is that more because an Alabama win over Missouri would push them up and Indiana would maybe hop them?
So that's I've had a couple discussions about this one too. Mostly with Indiana fans saying you can't possibly say that Alabama's going to re-jump us again in the standings. But just to, once again, let's lay it out on paper for a second. If you have Alabama beating a ranked Missouri team, which is projected to win by 16 according to Vegas, versus Indiana winning by 6 against an unranked UW team. Now, it's still a good team. I'm not saying they're unranked, therefore they're not good, but they're not what they were last year. No. I think that's a more impressive win for Alabama. And so, yes, that catapults them up a little bit. Notre Dame has a game against Navy. Once again, you have 12 versus 24, right? This is the game for Navy to prove everyone wrong and say we're legit, right? I think a lot of people are being, it's cute. Let's let the USA represent. Woohoo, Army and Navy. It's all good. I think this, if Navy can throw a serious punch here, it's going to change everything about how people view Army, about how people view Navy. Notre Dame, I think at that point has 2 bad losses. Even if you want to say a ranked Navy team beat them, I still don't think that's a good loss to have on your resume. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, Notre Dame really doesn't have anywhere to move up here. So either someone else is going to have a more impressive win, right? You have Alabama playing number 21 Missouri, and Notre Dame's playing number 24. So according to the poll, they're valuing Mizzou over Navy. So that's a more impressive win. Yeah, Notre Dame just kind of loses some ground due to no fault of their own. And what's so amazing about these predictions, especially, and I shouldn't say predictions, what's so amazing about rankings in general, it's such a strange thing, right? It's all about timing. Who do you play and when did you play them, right? You have LSU and USC, first game of the year. People have forgotten about that, right? That's a bad loss for LSU if they would lose to them right now, but not back then. That's a high quality loss. So it's all about the timing of who you played and when you played them. In this case, Notre Dame has a bad week of schedule that could drop them in the rankings.
Yeah, I'm very curious about how that goes with Alabama, especially if Alabama loses. Are they out?
We can play with the numbers there.
Yeah,
I would have to think. Yeah,
I mean, no Brady Cook in the game makes me think that that's not going to happen. But look, they've already lost twice. So
right, I think that's a fair assumption to make. Let's go ahead and play around with the what if simulation tool. I think we can have some fun with this. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yes, I can.
Cool. And I got the pointer to be all big here. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead. We're on rankingsrightnow.com. Free to sign up. You get to play around with the simulation tool. You can play with the Rank 'em challenge, which is always fun. But here we go. Let's go ahead and go make sure that we're on the AP Top 25 algorithm. That's really important to make sure. So as Paul just mentioned, we have a simulation right now that is saying Alabama is going to win this game against Mizzou 34-16. Now, what are we thinking of this game? Are we saying it's close? Are we saying it's most of the Alabama loss?
It's probably going to be close.
Sure. So yeah, let's just say it's 34-30. Okay. High scoring, whatever. You can play around with whatever point simulation you want. But so here's just a reminder. Here's our altered week games. And when we look at this projection, that has Alabama down to number 24. So that is, I don't know how you make up that ground. And we can even play around. I know I really wanted to this week, but here, let's take a quick glance at the College Football Selection Committee rankings, and let's run the same exact scenario. So right now, this is where the College Football Selection Committee, by the way, look, the selection committee, according to our algorithm, really values that Notre Dame win against Navy. That's a legitimate win, right? So BYU not dropping nearly as much. So let's say same thing. Alabama's still sitting at that 13 spot with a win this week. Let's go ahead and see what we believe the committee will say. Let's do the same thing, 34-30, confirming that. Making sure that that's the only game that we're going to be simulating as a change. And Alabama drops to 21. That 9 spots is a long way to go. And especially, I don't think Alabama would be in the conference championship game. And you need that extra game to make up that ground. I think that could be the death sentence for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't know. Can society function with an unranked Alabama?
When was the last time that even happened?
It
had to be before Saban, right?
Yeah, before Saban.
Yeah.
I mean, 17, 18 years ago.
Yeah, long time. So, yeah, I think this might be the death sentence if they lose this game. At home, too, that would be unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into LSU and A&M. You have LSU would drop 11 spots if they lost. You have A&M going up 6 spots if they win.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we flip it?
Cool.
Same score, just flip it.
Here we go. So we have Texas A&M right here moving up from 14 to 8. They're going up 6 slots, as you just mentioned, and LSU dropping 11 spots. Once again, this algorithm for the AP algorithm, and I have ideas of how I'm going to improve this in the offseason, but it gets a little bit aggressive on those middle, like 8 to 12, 13. With a loss, it shoots them way further down than we've seen in the past. So I don't know if they completely drop out, but I have played around with the simulation, so I kind of know what's going to happen here. So if we look for that game, LSU, why am I not seeing it? Do you guys see it?
In between Florida State,
Right
Miami,
here.
and BYU.
Thank
Yep.
you. Looking at way too many numbers, guys. I sometimes need a little bit of help. Let's just flip it. Like you said, 28 to 26. Confirm it. We are on the AP algorithm. Let's go ahead and run the simulation. So LSU moves up a slot. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot because that's a big win, right? Texas A&M dropped 7 down to 21. That seems about right to me. I think that's good. Tulane up here at 20. I don't know about that one, right?
Yeah.
But everything else seems kind of in the mix, right? But Texas A&M dropping down to 21 makes about a good amount of sense to me. LSU doesn't have a lot of room to move up because all of these big boys aren't playing anyone who's really throwing out a real threat. Texas has the only one with Vanderbilt that could be the the king killer. But other than that, I don't really see anything else happening that's going to shake things up here. But there's not that much room to move up. But I think being in 7 heading into these last couple of weeks is going to be a huge cushion for LSU that they can have a bad game or so and move down a little bit, but still be in contention of those top 12 rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things I noticed this week that's interesting is you've got Minnesota sneaking into the bottom there.
That's right.
Gophers.
That's right. At this point in time, things start to smooth themselves out. So let's just reset these scores real quick. Rerun the simulation to get us back to the base. That one caught my eye, right? And if we look at not only the top 25 teams, but let's just look at all the teams, right? Mm-hmm. So Minnesota, Washington State, I think is in there. Jacksonville State is having another good year. Michigan's still on the outside. Navy with a loss. Vanderbilt with a loss. Louisville with a win. These teams make somewhat sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. When you get to about 40 with Sam Houston State and Eastern Michigan, you can make an argument that maybe at the very end they'll sneak in. If you look at rankings way too often like I do, you'll notice that in like week 10, 11, 12, you have one of these teams that sneaks in there that you're really surprised by just because you can't ignore the trajectory they had. I think it was Toledo last year or 2 years ago that I think was 11, 12, and 0. You're going to get ranked at some point just because you finally have proven like, hey, we're going to take a 12-0 team against a 10 or a 9-3 team. Even if the 9-3 team we know has a much tougher strength of schedule, we might just say we're going to give you a tip of the cap. Minnesota, I think, is definitely in that contention. Same with Wazoo. Their losses are not bad losses, right? Minnesota had that crazy game against Michigan with the onside kick that was very arguable whether or not they actually got it back, right? Other than that, they've had a really solid year. So I think you have a couple of these teams, Big Ten, SEC, that are just right on there on the border to say, yes, we're going to actually take you seriously. Same thing with Tulane. If you look at, excuse me, if you look at Tulane and Memphis, both solid seasons, right? Do I think that they are going to be ranked 21? No, I think the algorithm is being a little too aggressive there and not taking the votes that you're seeing from 26, maybe down to 31, 32. That's another alteration we're going to make in the offseason to make sure that it's taking those things into account. But it's saying, hey, if you're just looking at the top 25, they probably should be somewhere in contention for that.
Very, very interesting stuff. All right, so how do you prepare for next week? And I'm going to encourage people to, they want you to do like maybe some longer simulations. And I told them like, go ahead, like send them in. I'll text them to you that way, you know, but 254 339-1122. Text into our text line what you want to do, longer simulations. Like Old Barn Cat wants you to do one that is for Kansas State, like next week if they went out, those kind of things.
Okay.
But that's good for when the playoff rankings come out next week, so we'll know. So after the playoff rankings come out, I'm probably gonna throw some stuff at you for next week's segment so that we can see how those project out. But anybody who wants to do that, 254-339-1122. Any scenario you send, I'll ask Peyton and we'll get to what we can get to. So
perfect. That sounds great. And it's going to get interesting. I'm very, very curious. It looks right to me. I'm a little bit biased on this, but even like, I'm curious where Pitt lands after their convincing win last night, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be very, very interesting. I would say probably through 15 or 16, maybe even through 18, 19, 20, because they might still have an outside chance. But it's going to be very interesting where teams are going to start ending up now that we're getting close to the edge here.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens in the ACC. I think they're white-knuckling through this Miami season right now because they really need Miami to at least enter that ACC title game undefeated.
They have to. They have to.
If they want to get 2, Miami has to be undefeated.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if there's any really other major regular season games, right? Those conference championships do have big weight. I just don't know if anything else is going to significantly. Obviously, you have Ohio State and Michigan. Who knows what could happen in that game, right? But there's probably 1 or 2 other shakeups that aren't coming to the top of our heads that is really going to change how we all perceive this, right?
Yeah.
So this is where we stand as of right now, based off of what's already happened, where we're projected to go. This is for week 10. If we asked, which I thought we were, if we asked the playoff committee, hey, where do you think everyone's staying? This is where we believe the algorithm believes that they would release the rankings.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this out to you on the ACC. Clemson is at Pitt on November 16th, and then their next toughest game after that. But they also have Louisville next week, and they have Virginia Tech, which could, like, those 2 teams could perhaps jump up and bite Clemson. I don't see that. Pitt's going to be interesting at Pitt. South Carolina, the last week of the regular season. So they don't play Miami, and they don't play SMU, but they do play Pitt. SMU has Pitt coming up, but they don't play Miami or Clemson. So Pitt is maybe the key team in the ACC race right now.
Now that you mention it, right, you're talking about this Miami situation.
Yeah.
Clemson is this dark horse that I think everyone has forgotten about. You don't hear anyone talk about Clemson.
Yeah.
I think Clemson could make a legitimate claim with that remaining schedule, especially if they could win the conference championship, right? Because then at that point, they had their first loss was because of a bad second half of the first game of the year. Like, against Georgia, you gotta make them a serious contender for the top 4 spots. If that's the case, if they went out, I don't see how you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pitt is the key team in the ACC right now that could jumble it out. Like Pitt, here's what could happen. If Pitt, SMU, Clemson, like there's this kind of, Clemson takes a second loss, they're out of the playoff. They're not letting a 2-loss team in unless there's absolute chaos around it.
Right.
If Pitt then goes and beats SMU, then that essentially puts Pitt in the game against Miami, and then we'll see what happens. But if Miami winds up there undefeated at the end of the year, and they their remaining schedule is FSU, who's just a husk now, Duke, at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse.
Right.
And that offensively, they should score 50 points on all those teams.
Yeah.
So
you just brought up a great point I wanted to ask you about. You said they're not going to let a 2-loss team into the playoff.
From the ACC. From the ACC.
Okay, I was going to say, where do you put Texas if they lose?
Oh, look, Texas is going to have to lose 3 times.
Sure.
Texas is going to have to lose 3 times for that.
A shaky game this weekend against Vanderbilt, it might completely throw their first 7-8 games up in flames, right?
Yeah.
Might be completely done. We don't know what to think of you anymore. And as a Florida State fan, I think you can give more credibility to that than anything, where they will just take it away and say, you're not where we thought you were. We're so sorry. You've had a great year, pat on the back, but you don't get to play in the dance. I'm curious, right? Texas is the only one right now that looks shaky, right? I don't think we know what's really going on with Quinn. Is Manning going to take over if Quinn has another bad game? We need to really see if Texas is going to say, hey, all of that was all nothing. Don't worry about it. We are who you thought we are. So that's okay, cool. So an ACC team with 2 losses, yeah, that's going to be tough, especially with how loaded we are with the SEC and the Big Ten up here. Yeah,
because if you look at the 4 spots right now, that would be, let's just say it's Boise State in the group of 5 spot. It's Notre Dame if they keep on winning, which they'll be favored in every single game from here on out.
Right.
Then you've got your ACC champ and your Big 12 champ. As long as there's 4 teams that have equal or better records in each league from the Big 10 and SEC, that's your playoff.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's going to be, and it would shock me. And Clemson really is the only team, but for Clemson to get in, they can't lose a second time, so they need to win out and then beat Miami, and then maybe Clemson and Miami would both be in and push out, the lowest rung of the SEC Big Ten that was kind of just there because of the patch.
Yes. Once again, everything has to do with timing, right? If Clemson had 2 bad losses at the very beginning of the year, right? Let's say whoever they played in week 2, they lose. If they would have put a really nice string together, made their way into the conference championship, I think they're fine. But you can't lose now. You cannot do it. It all has to come down to what we've seen lately. And that really comes down to this algorithm is trying to mimic what human behavior is. And all the time I see on social media, people talk about, well, blah, 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 team A beat team B. Yeah, but it was in week 3. No one even remembers it anymore. Yeah. It's not a good win or a good loss. Someone was saying, well, if Vandy wins against Texas, that means that when Mizzou dropped in the rankings after they beat them, that shouldn't have happened. You're absolutely right, but it did. And now people don't remember that game anymore. And that doesn't make the Alabama loss to Vandy any better. It just means that as of right now, Alabama is here, and we're going to see where Vandy is going to move up and where Texas is going to move down. But Alabama is not even in consideration anymore. It's cumulative over the year, right? You're building up to it, but it gets a much heavier weight recently versus where your losses were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Peyton Soysher, rankingsrightnow.com. Go to the website, register an account. It's free. It's free. Like it's one of the best things you can do for free.
It's fun. And we have our newsletter that we send out each week that will go deeper into analytics. Play around with it. It's all fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for next week. Peyton, we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Right. That's Peyton Soysher, rankingsrightnow.com. Coming up next, we've done rankings. While we're doing math, let's do some gambling numbers. Let's get Evan Abrams, Action Network. He's next. Kenneth Davis and Josh Neighbors on the way as well. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. And for the rest of October, buy any new Jeep and get the Jeep Wave program, which includes 2 oil changes, 2 tire rotations, good for 2 years from the date of purchase. Each Wrangler has a trail-rated badge, indicating that the vehicle has passed a series of off-road tests capable of handling tough terrain. These tests include off-road traction, maneuverability, articulation, ground clearance, and water fording. Ram Power Days heating up and has throughout, all year. But this month of October at Alan Samuels in Waco, scary good deals on over 300 new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get a demo 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab 4x4 for $16,000 off MSRP. Get 0.9% financing for 72 months on any in-stock 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab or Quad Cab. How about the Sky One Touch on a Wrangler offering the major benefit of being able to easily open and close a large portion of the roof with just a push of a button, providing convenient way to enjoy open-air driving while the weather is still so nice, while quickly adapting to changing weather conditions without needing to pull over, manually adjust the top, essentially combining the openness of a soft top with the ease of a hard top, making it perfect for those who want maximum versatility in their Wrangler experience. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Always great to welcome back our good friend Evan Abrams, Action Network HQ, who is, would you say this is the busiest time of your year where everything literally intersects? There's nothing that's not in season right now.
Yeah, you would be scared to see what my tabs look like on my 1, 2, 5 monitors at the moment to my right. It's the most fun time of year, but it's also the most busy. So it's the thing that's nice is that it's like a school teacher. It happens the same time every year. You know what's coming, so you can at least expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do not envy the amount of work you've had to do this week, but now, I do have to check out some of the baseball stuff because the World Series does start tonight. And as a Red Sox fan, I think I'm obligated to pull against whoever plays the Yankees. But with Dave Roberts and Mookie Betts over there, I think it's pretty easy for me to cheer for the Dodgers.
Yeah, this is an easy one for you. I don't think there's really any call there. And to be fair, other than the Liberty, New York hasn't won a title since 2011, so we could use it.
Yeah, good deal. All right, tonight is one of the best games of the week and a game that will affect the playoff. You would not have said that about Boise State and UNLV until this year, but it absolutely will. The winner of this game is going to be in a great spot to be in the playoff come year's end. Although they're going to have to contend with a military school as well. So that's going to be tough.
What a great season.
I know. Unbelievable. But Boise State and UNLV tonight, no one has cracked the code on how to stop Ashton Genty yet. What are the numbers saying about this game? If there's anyone equipped to do it, it might be UNLV, but Oregon didn't do it. So what are we looking at here in Boise State and UNLV?
Yeah, so if you just looked at the matchup, like you said, you'd be like, wow, this is an incredible game. And then 2 layers on top of it would be UNLV probably should have beaten Syracuse earlier in the year and made this matchup even better. That's one. Number 2, Ashton Genty's the other fold in this one in terms of being the favorite for the Heisman, the numbers he's putting up, the comparisons to Barry Sanders. It's just all in all, and the fact you got a primetime game at night, it's beautiful. But let's go inside the numbers here for a second. So Boise State went under their full game total for the first time this year last week versus Hawaii. Now, that's only because Hawaii didn't hold up their end of the bargain, really. UNLV will. So that's just my opinion here. Now, the total's gone up. We were at 57.5 on the look ahead. So way before we even set the line here, it was 64.5 down to 63.5. I kind of like the over here. Now, UNLV's gone over in 5 straight home games, which kind of just plays to the number in this one. Now, on the game itself, I personally need to still be convinced of Maddox Madsen. I don't know if he's the right choice for the Broncos quarterback at the moment. He's done a great job protecting the football, but other than that, he just hasn't done what I needed to see. So I think I would taste UNLV in a few ways. Maybe you look live. Maybe you touch the 3.5. And I like the over in this one.
Yeah, I would say so too. What are the numbers on Ashton Genty this week?
Listen, minus 1,400, minus 1,500 to score 2 touchdowns. It's just astronomical and through the roof. And most of that stuff hasn't changed week to week just because he's getting so many carries in those situations. To me, I mean, I'm always one to try to look at the other side of it, but I just don't know how I would even begin to not take him to score a touchdown. Even with those odds, so he's right now minus 1,000 anytime touchdown. He's plus 185 to score the first, minus 220 for 2. So, one thing you might want to look at as just if he gets hot early, let's see what first quarter is. Yeah, first quarter is minus 105. So if you think that Boise State's going to even get close to the end zone, right, in one of their first 2 possessions against UNLV and you like them in this game, you're talking about even money for someone who's scoring at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah, like almost now there's more money. Like you're probably just throwing away either way on him, right? Like it's not the best thing to just like he's kind of inevitable.
He is inevitable in that sense. You look at the rushing yards. So he's at 190.5. I don't even really know. I mean, the only benefit you have in betting his over in this game is you're going to assume he's actually going to play the entire game, which hasn't happened at almost any game this year. I mean, he's been pulled in his third quarters right after the second half into the second half. So at least you should know with a spread of 3.5 and a total above 60, he's got to get the rock a ton.
Oh yeah.
And also think about this. Boise's quarterbacks, the over under there, 213.5. It's a difference of 23 yards between the rushing and the passing. So you know what Boise's going to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Notre Dame and Navy would not have thought we were talking about this game earlier in the year, but this is one. Even though Notre Dame has scored 41 points, 34 points, they've had some good offensive outputs. Navy's got a reasonably good defense. Plus, they hold the ball for a long time. Notre Dame is a rushing offense through Riley Leonard. Is this one that we don't expect a lot of points, or is this one that could maybe see a lot of points because we don't expect a lot of points?
This is a fascinating market. So I think that's kind of how we have to start. Look ahead was 41.5 on the total. Now 51. So that's just some expectations. Now, part of that, there's only 2 teams this season undefeated to the over in all their games. Miami, 7-0, and Navy, 6-0. So there's been scoring in Navy games this year is the reason that the total's gone this way. But if you also look at the markets on the spread, so the spread right now is 13.5. You've got almost 65% of the money and the tickets. So big money bets and public bets coming in on Navy in this one, which is a little unexpected considering how public Notre Dame usually is, but you usually don't get Navy this good. A few numbers just on the series. So Notre Dame obviously has dominated historically. They're 11-1 straight up in their last 12 meetings. Since 1990, the Irish have closed as a double-digit favorite versus Navy at a neutral site 7 times. 7-0 against the spread. But I guess the more interesting, 7-0 straight up. The more interesting part is only 4-3 against the number. And you're dealing with a reasonably high number here in terms of 2 touchdowns. The way I think I'm going to want to play this, the explosives for Notre Dame are all going to come on the ground. So I kind of like under 13 first half, under 10. Let's see what that number is. Let me look at the board right now. So if I click first half here, it is 7.5. So if I can find that 7 first half, I would be interested in that. And for me, full game, I need under 13 because 13 is a bit key when you get there. So that's probably what I would be looking at.
Okay, that's interesting. And you know, I thought Riley Leonard might have more like passing yards at this point in the year, but given the way that offense kind of runs through him, you know, it's mostly play action stuff and love and all that. Like this game's not gonna light it up in the passing yards. I
don't think so at all. But the other thing is, it gets a Navy defense 103rd in opponent rush EPA, 123rd in defensive line yards. Like they're not going to be able to stop Notre Dame if they do what they're supposed to do. So that's why I feel like at some point they'll break out. So that's the bet.
Yeah. BYU travels to UCF this week. BYU undefeated. They have found a way each and every single week. Oklahoma State comes here to Waco this week to play Baylor in a free fall. They played their best game of the entire season last week and still lost. BYU finds a way. It doesn't make sense on the surface, but UCF is now at home, desperate to get a win themselves because they are also in a free fall. So this one to me is very interesting because BYU is kind of tough to peg on what they're going to do any given week.
Yeah. And they also a bit of a luck box. I mean, that Oklahoma State game was as wild as one could get. But let's just look at BYU. So I did a little research on this, and I think this is fascinating. So BYU had a win total of 4.5 entering this year. 4.5. They're 7-0 right now to start the season. Indiana and Army, also both undefeated, 7-0 straight up this season as well. Both had win totals of just 5.5. So going back to 2010, we've never seen this many teams with such low win totals have this much success. And this is part of BYU's story. And the interesting part about it is they're listed as underdogs in this game. And they're getting almost 80% of the tickets right now. So the public is loving the idea of the undefeated team getting points. To me, I think it's a bit of a luck box, is the word I said before. I'm just not buying into exactly what I'm seeing here. It's just a lot of turnover luck. They've gone 3-0 in one possession games. Probably should have lost that game against the Cowboys. I just don't see it. Since 2005, Central Florida 9-3 against the number at home against ranked competition, 7-0 with a single-digit spread. I think UCF isn't as good as they should be. BYU's better than they should be. And so the line, I think, is telling a little bit of a story here, which is why it's so fascinating. How about this nugget? Of every game on Saturday of this slate, that is the game with the most tickets right now. So it's getting the most action of any game. People are really interested in this one, and 79% of the tickets on BYU is the dog, but only 58% of the money. So you're seeing a little bit of that bigger bets come in on UCF. It's the direction I'll head.
Bama and Mizzou, the disappointment bowl. Mizzou, I mean, I know they only have the one loss, but they just don't look that good. I mean, they just at all. They're not passing the smell test. Like they've been fortunate in they got Vanderbilt on the right day, and that was a very close game. They struggled to beat Auburn. A&M absolutely housed them. So, and this is their first game against another team that talent-wise is kind of in their ballpark, and Alabama, who obviously has huge problems on defense, and it's affecting everything about them. What are the numbers saying on this one?
The disappointment bowl. This is, like you said, all I'm seeing on the board, and I'm looking to my right here just to see the sheet that has live action, and literally as you're speaking, Missouri, Alabama is lighting up on the board. It actually moved from 18.5 down to 17.5. It's been pinging all morning. I think the news on Brady Cook, which I haven't seen anything official yet, is probably, and he's listed as doubtful. So you're going to assume that he's not going to go. Drew Pine getting the start there instead. To me, Pine came into the game against Auburn this past weekend, ended up going 10 of 22 for 78 yards. In Pine's lone season as a starter for Notre Dame, he wasn't that bad, but he averages 8 yards per attempt. I'm not inclined to go that direction. I think it's a little difficult to try to pinpoint which of these teams is going to show up when there's just so many questions. I'll give you a real interesting nugget, though. So Alabama's lost 3 straight games against the spread entering this matchup. They haven't lost 4 straight games, even crossing seasons against the spread since Nick Saban's rookie year in 2007. So when you talk about expectations and what Alabama's currently going through under DeBoer, it's the pressure has to be unimaginable. And you look at the line because of Cook. Look ahead 13.5. Now, like I said, up to 18.5 earlier, down to 17.5. I don't think people really know what to do here. So in my honest opinion, I would be looking at Alabama, but I just can't go over 17. It just doesn't make sense to me in a team that I think should be better. I think should win by 20 plus, especially without Cook. But, the betting man inside me and the numbers guy needs under 17 in this one.
Yeah, they're just not trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
They're just, you can't trust them to do what you think they're going to do any given week.
And honestly, this is such must win for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, 3rd loss is killer, and Missouri, this is their toughest game yet. If they somehow find a way to win this game and completely drown the Tide, the college football playoff, the SEC title, they're all in play. So just a wild one. And the fact that all those things are in play and the line is 17 makes me want to believe the line and believe the talent. But you just haven't seen it from the Tide this year.
Yeah, absolutely not. Illinois and Oregon. Illinois is a team you just don't want to play week to week because they're gonna mess you up a little bit, even if you do beat them. Now they haven't lost that much, but they're very physical. Altmaier seems to play the best when the game's on the line, but Oregon looks like they've completely come into their own. But even still, like this one feels to me like it could be a scrap.
It could. The issue with me looking at the matchup is you have a common opponent. And it's one of the first things I look at when I look at a matchup. And with this one, you've got Purdue. Oregon just beat them 35-0, while Illinois needed overtime and the miracle of all miracles. So when trying to even compare both matchups, it's interesting to me. I'm looking at the market right now. 72% of the tickets, 78% of the money. And you're going to say, Evan, which direction? Illinois. Everybody is interested in taking the points and assuming what you're going to assume, that it's going to be a close matchup. For me, Oregon or nothing is probably the play because I just don't trust Illinois. And Dan Lanning just done an incredible job in certain circumstances. Double-digit favorite. He's 22-1 straight up. You're like, okay, great. You're supposed to win the game. But he is 15-8 against the number there in those games. And he's covering by over 4 points per game. So showing up and scoring points in those. And they were so disappointing earlier in the season. I just kind of feel like every week I'm getting a little bit of a nudge that, maybe they would have been rated some way if it didn't start the way it did. So, and one more, just I'll throw at you here. Under Lanning, they played 2 games as a 14-plus point favorite off extended rest. They've won 79-19 in both matchups. So I just feel like it's Oregon or nothing here.
Yeah. He is. I think he's about to be America's coach. I think he has that vibe about him where, he's got a little bit of the Saban in him, but he's also like maybe like a bit more of a risk taker. And I don't know. He's the first coach that's been loyal to Oregon. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
He's got a little Dan Campbell in him.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He's got it's a nice mix of what he's got there. All right. A&M and LSU, best game of the week in College Station. Garrett, our producer, is going. He's excited, but as an LSU fan, he's nervous.
A little nervous.
But in this series, when they're both ranked, LSU is 8-0.
Great nugget.
Yeah, so 8-0. Does A&M finally break that little streak?
So this one's a toughie, and I only say it because of this. So the line was 3.5, then it to 2.5. Now I'm seeing Texas A&M -1. So
oh, wow.
it is really pulled down towards LSU's direction. Now our projection for this one is pick'em. So at 2.5, and especially at 3, I was coming on the air here to tell you to take LSU. Mm-hmm. At the current moment, I would wait for A&M to hopefully show life early and then jump on LSU. That's really the only way I see to play this game because I just don't see it in the number. Listen, to beat LSU, the opponent's got to be able to throw the ball at an efficient rate. I'm just not sure Texas A&M can do that. I mean, Wegman against Mississippi State, 15 of 25, 217, but he had 4 turnover-worthy plays. That's just not going to get it done against LSU. And I was going to talk about Brian Kelly as a road dog. At +1, it absolutely means nothing. If you want to look at the circumstances of they opened 3.5, it was 2.5 most of the week. We can play along if you want. He's 23-11 ATS as a road dog. It just proves in games that are super tight when he's on the road, he ends up making it close and does his job. So I would be on LSU here, but the number is just moving away from me.
Yeah. I
literally just picked A&M straight up, and it breaks my heart.
Oh, no.
See, but that's also being a fan, and you try to neg them, right? You neg them. So they nobody thinks we'll do it. Yeah, that's how you do it. All right, you mentioned to me the Oklahoma Ole Miss. Early in the season, you would have thought, this game's going to get a good number. This is going to be great. Oklahoma offensively is absolutely abysmal. Ole Miss has one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses in the country, although I do think the defense numbers are skewed by that early season schedule a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
But still, one of the better defenses and one of the best offenses. This is not a good matchup for Oklahoma at all.
Yeah, this is as bad as it gets, especially against a Kiffin team that probably wants to feast because they really haven't had that ability. And I see no better opponent to feast against than this. 2 numbers that really just show the line in this one. So it's 20.5 right now, but before all the action of the season, it was supposed to be 6. So it's gone up 14.5 points based off of just play on the field. And then you say to yourself, which is what I did about a week ago when I was looking this up, I was like, Oklahoma 20.5. That prop 20 hasn't happened in a while. It's the truth. So they haven't closed as a 20-plus point underdog since November 22nd, 1997 against Texas Tech. 24-point dog in that game. That would be 348 games ago for the Sooners. So this is absolutely uncharted territory for a program that is just headed in the wrong direction. And one more I'll give for you, which kind of just tells you why the number's this big. Under Venables. Been terrible when they're projected to be blown out. As a single-digit favorite or a dog, 4-12 straight up, 5-11 against the number. So even this big, I'm not sure I could even tell you to take the Sooners. If you had any momentum to want to take them, I would just tell you to take the team total because they're going to have to put points up on the board in this one. And even if they get blown out, maybe you get lucky.
Yeah. Best of luck, Jackson Arnold. You're going to need it, buddy. You're absolutely going to need it. Evan, thank you so much. Enjoy New York.
Thank you.
Especially, look, as much as I despise the Yankees and everything they stand for, World Series time in New York's a great time to be there.
Great time, but also we're title town. The Liberty just won. We just we're going to have a parade. We're going to maybe 2 parades. 2 parades? No, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope not, but if you do, good for you.
Here's to you, Boston. Enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Evan Abrams, Action Network. We love having Abrams on. Evan, anytime we can. Next up, let's go Kenneth Davis, right? I mean, this is the most fun we have every week. Kenneth Davis, Big Ten Country. This is 365 Sports.
I've had a lot of ailments. My goodness. Hey, this is David Smoke. I'm 65 years old, and I'm going to have some things break down. I work out still most every day. I can't run like I used to. My hip is bothering me, and I've had injections in my back. In fact, one back in April up in Dallas, and it worked, but it did not solve the problem. So I need to get another MRI of my lower back, my lower lumbar, and also at some point figure out, is that what is affecting me having this throbbing pain? And it's more often than I even admit in my right hip. Ideal MRI set me up with an MRI last week thanks to my doctor calling them and saying, this is what we need from your state-of-the-art imaging machines. So, Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time. Dr. Rob Maxey and his ownership and partnership, they have done a phenomenal job. This saves you money, a bunch of money. The average is $1,100, and you don't pay anything more and sometimes less with idealmri.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Midway Athletics and UBO Business Services are two names that exude winning. From Midway's top Central Texas Star test scores to college-like extracurricular facilities and UBO Business Services' industry-leading customer service scores, you can trust in these two winning programs. Best of luck to Coach Joe Gillespie and the Midway Panthers. And look at your sticker on your office equipment. If it does not say UBO, call Midway Class of 2020, Duff, Daxon, Dane, or Sean Hunt at 254-709-2101 or ubeo.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Bud Light. Enjoy the smooth, crisp taste of Bud Light beer. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Our buddy Kenneth Davis, Big Ten country, with us. And Kenneth, first of all, on college football, I am thoroughly enjoying every part of this season as a broadcaster, as a podcaster, whatever you want to call it. Now, as a fan of Florida State, I've already, booked several therapy appointments for when the season's over. But that's for later when I can completely unpack my pain. But as a college football fan, it's been unbelievable. And we're at a point here in the season where I have no idea what's going to happen. You can't predict it. I have no idea what's going to happen. I think I know the teams are going to be there at the end, but we've seen enough from even the elite teams where everybody's vulnerable.
Everyone has a hole. And now it's funny because going off our last conversation last week, and I told you at the old curmudgeon man that likes powerhouses, you have to come to grips with what the reality of what we're going through right now. And it's cool. I don't like the fact that, as you just pointed out, I'm not sure as I usually am when it comes to these predictions and these teams, but some of it, and you look at, for instance, like Illinois, some of it you feel good about because there are teams that are near and dear to you, and it's great to see them kind of have the success in this environment of parity to go along with having more open playoff slots. But then, and I know we'll talk about it later, you got, what happened with SC. We had where at one point we thought, we knew Michigan was still trying to be something, but we see that there's still going to be some growing pains with the beating they took from U of I. They took it was a buking more than a beating, because when you got some trickeration in there, it's not a clear beating. But then you look at the fact that it's just been a lot of look at Nebraska. And I think I'll say this too, as far as Nebraska, and I know we'll dive into that. A lot of the times when we've been on here talking, I try to preference everything with saying that these teams are early in their rebuilding process, particularly Nebraska and even SC. And you kind of saw that with Nebraska, but also, and it's still just my disrespect, and I think the country's disrespect for the University of Indiana and the respect that has to be applied to them. And I know I haven't put enough respect when it comes to the Hoosiers. So it's just one of those things with parity and now with a wide open playoffs that we just have to come to grips with.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into Nebraska first then. They've got Ohio State this week. Indiana absolutely threw them in a wood chipper last week, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. I thought that game was going to be really good. I thought this is two teams on the up, and I still think Nebraska's on the up, but they caught an Indiana team that is just so confident and has such a fantastic offense that once they got fully behind the 8 ball, they just could not escape it. This week against Ohio State, I didn't expect them to win that game, but can they play better? I mean, can they have a better showing than that against Indiana? I know Ohio State's widely more talented at least, but I just don't see another 56-7 coming for this team. Maybe I have too much faith in Matt Rule, but I just don't see that coming again another week. Will they win? Probably not, but can they look better?
I don't think they're going to get their asses beat is the question to that degree. But I think the thing will be this, and it still can be like this. Contextually, what will it be? Because after getting beat 56-7, you got to batten down the hatches with the run game. We think about everything that Curtis Rourke and Tevin Jackson did through the air, but really you got to look at how they were ran on, speaking of Nebraska's defense. And we've talked a lot ad nauseum about Chip Kelly and the physicality that he's bringing with Ohio State's run offense. And I expect to see that a lot. And it could be a situation where they're getting beat as bad, but the score may not be as lopsided, particularly if Dylan Raiola can score and not turn the ball over as much through the air. He had over 200 yards passing, but still, he didn't score any touchdowns. I think he had like 3 turnovers. If he can even just be vanilla, but not turn the ball over, it's going to allow Nebraska, as far as the lopsided score, probably not to vary as crazy as it did versus Indiana, but they're definitely not going to win versus Ohio State. Like, I think that the real question is, and we've said it here and we've talked about it a lot, is when Indiana faces Ohio State. But when it comes back to Nebraska, I just think now, when we've said it, that Matt Rule's in year 2. And like it's okay, because now, and we know that he's building it through the high schools. There are going to be some things you just can't get from those kids up there. There's some things that you're going to need the transfer portal and NIL to do when it comes to certain athletic attributes. And I know a lot of times when I'm saying that, we're thinking about skill positions, but I'm not even saying that. It could be edge rushers. It's different things that you're going to have to. But they're in year 2 at a heralded school in Nebraska with a head coach that is a proven program builder / rebuilder. So I'm not scared. And they still have a young quarterback that has the potential to be perhaps generational, but I'm not saying he is. We have to see it next season, but we still know there's a ton of talent in Dylan Raiola. So I wouldn't be scared or crazy right now, or act crazy if I was Nebraska. I just think sometimes where you start off the season and things are going so well, and then you have that loss to Illinois, and you look at how well Illinois has played, so the loss doesn't sting as bad as it stung. But you start off the year and you thinking the sky is the limit, and then you kind of got to get pushed back on your bridges and kind of learn where you're at, so then next season you can know where necessarily you need to be going.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to finish with Illinois and Oregon, because that to me is the most intriguing game of the week. This is not like a great week in the Big Ten, like as far as that, but that means we're probably going to see something wild. Like this would be the week that Nebraska may do that, because that's tracked, earlier in the year. But Penn State and Wisconsin's an interesting one to me. Penn State continually looks better and better to me. And this is the James Franklin team I have the most faith in. Wisconsin is year 2 now under Luke Fickell. They obviously need better quarterback play, but they're not as bad as I thought they would be at that position. They're okay. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke was never going to be something I thought that helped them. Then when he got hurt, it kind of opened the door for them a little bit, I think, to see what they really had. Is this a game, though, that Penn State could kind of flex their muscles offensively and let the dogs hunt?
Oh, that's a good question. No, because I'll say this. One, and this is Drew Aller fan club, head of the fan club. We saw 2 weeks ago versus SC. You think about them going trailing 20-6, and even with one interception, Drew Aller threw a couple more, but you saw him grow with the ball in his hands, and of course, how well Tyler Warren can play. The thing I think, though, you have to remember is you're talking about a top 10 defensive backfield in college when you're talking about Wisconsin, and Wisconsin can fly around. The problem that Wisconsin faces is when you're looking at the two-headed monster that with Singleton and Trayvon, I don't want to butcher his name as I'm skipping out now, always into Allen. With Allen, when you look at the fact that Wisconsin is ranked 62nd when you're talking about stopping the run, I think you're going to get into a situation, perhaps now through the air, it's going to be through play action and also the versatility of Ty Warren, where they'll take care of it through the air. But I think they're going to try to exploit the run game versus Wisconsin, particularly because even with James Franklin, this hasn't been one of the best traveling teams when you're talking about Penn State. I think, hopefully this year is a growth there where with the talent that they have there, we can see that they can travel and get it done. But you start to want to see, and I think kind of what you're saying when you're saying let the dogs hunt, you want to see them travel and dominate. I don't know if they're going to dominate Wisconsin with how well their defensive backfields plays. So that would kind of be the question for me when we're talking about Wisconsin and what you can expect with Hunter Warler and also Ricardo Hallman in the defensive backfield for Wisconsin. They got some dogs back there in the backfield that are great Big Ten defensive backs. So I don't know if Drew Aller is going to be able to just weaponize his receiving core, even though I'm sure that Ty Warren is going to perform pretty well.
Indiana takes on Washington this week. They're not going to have Curtis Rourke, so I assume a little bit of a dip, but the backup has experience. He started 5 games a year ago. Mm-hmm. This is a team that's playing really confident. Washington's very much a transitional team right now. Will Rogers has put up some numbers, but is this another one where Indiana can maybe be comfortable, or is Washington, just given the fact that Jed Fisher's done a great job of rebuilding that team even to this point where they lost? I mean, they literally lost everything off a national championship caliber roster last year, lost it all, but has he wrapped it, maybe at least contained the spill, so to speak?
I don't think this is a Jed Fisher thing. To be honest with you, I think this has a lot more to do with what's going on in Indiana. Personally, Paul, I'm not until we talk about Indiana, Ohio State, I'm not picking anybody to beat Indiana. All right. So I'm throwing that gauntlet down. I don't think it's a gauntlet of what Indiana's been able to do. You just pointed it out. I think Washington is in transition. It'll be interesting because Jed Fisher seems like he can be a guy that can take over that program. I've said it on here plenty of times. That program has a really successful floor through transition. Like, it's not a situation where they're lost in the wilderness when they go from one head coach running the program to another. Usually it may take a couple seasons, and then when they're one of the pretty good teams within college football, I expect to see that within the coming seasons. But right now, this year, I don't think it's a chance. Even with Tavian Jackson, and you pointed out he started 5 games last year, and taking over for Curtis Rourke, injured with the thumb, who's probably looked at as going to be returning this season. I mean, it was 200. Even when you look at the yards, Tavian Jackson did a pretty good job last weekend, taking over in the second half. 280 through the air, 215 through the rushing. I don't see them being able to pull it off. Defensively, 2 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 3 INTs. We're not just talking about a team that's doing it on the offensive side, because one of the things, even getting back to that Nebraska, we think that their wide receiver core probably has to get better in the future, but we think they have a gifted running back. But we've seen the fact that regardless of who's in the backfield, and Dowell has been a rugged running back, they have a really good offensive line at times, and we can see that they can get it done. And we didn't see any of that versus the Hoosiers. And nobody can tell me you came into this season thinking that the Hoosiers were going to be a defensive juggernaut or at any way whatsoever. So no, I'm taking the Hoosiers over the Huskies. I apologize to the state of Indiana. I have not put enough respect on your name. Here goes your respect. No, it has nothing to do with Washington. This right now, and we talked about it with what Matt Rule said prior to last week's show and last week's game. If they didn't start out of the top 25, they would be within the top 10. So this is one of the best schools this year within the Big Ten. We still have to see them play the top, and they don't have that many opportunities to play the top elite. But if you're just looking at it as far as who's on your schedule, they are wrecking shop when we're talking about the teams that they're facing on their schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get to the good game, the best game of the week, Illinois and Oregon, USC is a fraud, right? Yeah. Like they're a fraud, and unfortunate for them. But like should we have maybe known this was coming a little bit? Like, did we put too much in that LSU win? Because the teams are pointed in opposite directions after that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that's the only I think at the beginning of the season after LSU took that loss, we thought that LSU was going to have one of those LSU years where it's like, man, you got a lot of talent, but you guys got like 3 losses or maybe 2 losses, and you should have should have lost 3. And now you look at that being the only loss that they've suffered this season. I think the problem, and I hate going at anybody, and I'm not calling for anybody's job or whatever. But when you look at the fact of a 14-point switch around as far as how they came back versus SC last week, and you think about Lincoln Riley supposed to be an offensive mastermind, because a lot of times if you just look at the score and you're like, okay, they lost by a point and both teams almost scored 30 points, you look at it as, well, I can't put that on the offense, right? But when you're talking about you were up by 14 and you weren't able to score another touchdown, I know Miller Moss threw interception to start off the second half, and then of course the defense lied down. I think we've given a lot of props to D'Anton Lynn, and I'm not trying to take it away, but it's still early, and there's only so much you can do trying to flip over that defensive roster this year with him coming over from UCLA. But yeah, I can't say, if we're going off of what we were saying at the beginning of the year, and I'll apply this to myself, yes, it's fraudulent compared to what you thought they would be able to do within the Big Ten. And even that loss against Michigan, you thought that was more of a temperature check for SC. And now it's proven that it's more of the standard. Lincoln Riley offensively isn't necessarily getting it done in these games, particularly where we were looking at these Pac-12 schools are coming over, that the fear was we're not going to be able to start traditional Big Ten schools. We're not going to be able to score 30 points consistently with them. But even when I'm saying that, those teams are supposed to still, if it becomes a quote unquote shootout, supposed to be able to put up the points at the end to solidify the game, and you didn't see that. So on both sides of the ball, the side that the head coach Lincoln Riley is formidable with, and then you look at what Lynn is doing, there's been failure. I'll be interested to see, and it's funny just even thinking about this. I know Lincoln Riley and how people have always kind of skeptical about him. The last couple of weeks I've been thinking about, this is a great opportunity for Lynn to grow, and even if there's times where let's just say the next season or two, if he remains the defensive coordinator, that it'd be a great opportunity for him to really get his name out there if his defense can still perform solidly and consistently compared to the vacillations that could be happening on the offense. And also, when I'm saying that, they're still putting up nice points as far as on the offensive side, but sometimes you just have to be able to punch the ball through when your team needs it towards the end of the game, and they weren't able to do that, and that falls on Lincoln Riley because that's his side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's wind up with Illinois and Oregon. Illinois is going to take a chunk out of whoever they play. I mean, that's their kind of style. Mm-hmm. But Oregon, they are hitting on all cylinders finally, and Dan Lanning has come into his own. It's like he's like got the fifth Infinity Stone or whatever. Like he's kind of there now. After that Ohio State win, he looked literally ravenous on the sidelines. Like he had just taken down a wildebeest. Seriously. So can Illinois keep them in the box, or is this one where we maybe have to go, listen, good work, Illinois, but Oregon might be they might be the class of the country right now?
You just answered the question. Again, I think that the question I think what we're looking to see, and it's not a knock on Illinois, it's just the facts when you're talking about a supremely talented team, one of the up-and-coming better coaches when we're talking about college football and Dan Lanning. And also even last week where, you look at the score 21-7 versus Michigan, and it was at home. You still need a trickeration on the field goal to get able to get to almost scoring a touchdown with the tight end and then punching it in to score another TD. So you can kind of say, it was 14-7. So you're talking about an Oregon team that we know can run up the score on you. We've seen that they can be a team that can lean on the run, going back to the beginning of the season when we were complaining about Dylan Gabriel and them leaning on the pass with too many attempts. So I don't see Illinois being able to pull it off. Illinois, again, stout defensively. Speaking of Wisconsin, another team with a nice defensive backfield, but this is too much when you're going up against Oregon. And I think it still can be good for perhaps, depending on who may fall within the top 12 to help Illinois if they have a good game. Because if you look at the biggest games they're going to basically play this year outside, because Michigan is in Michigan. So that's going to take a hit. Penn State, contextually, you could say where it didn't look as bad as only scoring 7 points because it's not like Penn State put it on you as you would expect it with the weapons that Penn State has on offense. But when you look at the fact that Penn State had 20-something points and you had 7, and you look at the fact that Oregon is probably going to have double-digit points on you too, you want to kind of start setting your resume up so when it gets down to the playoff times that these schools, that the judges can at least look at it and say, okay, even when you played said Oregon, you really gave this school that we view as being perhaps the best school in the country a run for its money. I don't know if Illinois will be able to do it, but it would go a long way in helping them try perhaps to get into the playoffs because they're still on the outside looking in. But it would be a great story here locally if Illinois was able to pull it off in a season where if they had 7 wins, people probably would have been pretty happy here, and so for them to even play the way that they've played this year, getting to 6, and I'm saying that because I expect them to at least get 8 victories. It's been a terrific year, but man, Oregon, as you pointed out, they're kicking it in at the right time of the season. And but a couple weeks ago talking to you, there was a fear could Oregon turn it up or were they priming? And it was like, are they really priming or is this just one of those years where, they're going to be good, but not as good as we expected? And as of right now, it definitely looks like they're priming. So I just think that there's a chance Illinois could be more than a speed bump, but may end up being somewhat of a speed bump versus the Badgers.
Kenneth Davis, Big Ten Country. Look him up. Make sure you watch his podcast too. Always appreciate our time with Kenneth. Kenneth, enjoy your weekend and good luck to Alabama versus the very disappointing Missouri team.
Hold on, before we go, we talked about a young quarterback at Syracuse last week.
Oh, my God. Oh, poor Kyle.
Poor Kyle. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, poor Kyle.
And I was saying how, as being a Big Ten watcher, there were questions with Ohio State when he was there. And there was a tip that was one of the offensive players, but there are a lot of tips where he was throwing at the defender's hands. So Kyle McCord, again, that was – Man, here's the good news for Kyle. You can't play any worse than that. You're right. It's on the way up. Oh, my God. That was, he threw 3 touchdown passes, just not to the right team. So I'm a silver lining guy, Kenneth. That's what poor Kyle. Watching that game last night, I saw the first one, then my wife and we started watching the Red Sox thing on Netflix because I'm a huge Red Sox guy, and it's fantastic. Okay. Although I will tell you, as a Red Sox fan, the first episode is all 2003, and I was like back there melting down mentally again, just reliving it, and like the pit of my stomach. But then I checked. I was like, oh, it can't be. Oh my God, it's 31-0 at half, and Pitt's had the ball for 4 minutes. That is awful. That is special kind of awful. So, yeah, ridiculous. Well, Kenneth, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next Friday. All right, there's Kenneth Davis. Have a great one.
Kenneth Davis, Big Ten Country, here with us on 365 Sports. We're wrapping it up, talking Big 12 with Josh Neighbors next. Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Is your car ready for a makeover? Get ready to fall in love with your ride again at City Tire and Battery. City Tire and Battery is family owned and has provided expert service with top quality products since 1942. And with financing available, there's no reason to put off those much needed upgrades. Give your car the love it deserves and go see City Tire and Battery, located at 1502 South Valley Mills in Waco.
New arrivals just dropped at Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco. Looking for the best Baylor gear? Barefoot is the place to grab your gear. Game day polos, tees, tanks, caps, clear stadium bags, jewelry, and more. Barefoot Outfitters has all the essentials with unique campus apparel and offering comfortable garments and designs. Long-lasting images that people continue to enjoy wearing time and time again. Located right off I-35 on Spate, or shop at barefootcampusoutfitter.com and get free shipping on orders $75 or more. Go Bears.
Everything we do for you. First Central Credit Union says it's game on. Lower your monthly vehicle payments by refinancing your vehicle with First Central. Make it a winning season with refinancing set to your preferences. You decide the due date and frequency. Financed elsewhere? Save money with a new local game plan. Apply online today. We make it easy to score at firstcentralcu.com.
Membership and loan policy requirements apply. Member NCUA.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Call Deborah Holder at 254-300-7202 to see if you qualify to save up to 40% on your auto insurance.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch with us here on 365 Sports. Josh, this is an interesting week in the Big 12, is that now that we're past the halfway point, we see where the conference is going. There is, I don't know if it's a race to the bottom or it's a race to like crawl out of it, but the mediocre are clashing now. You know, Oklahoma State and Baylor clashing this week. West Virginia and Arizona. I'll leave Kansas in the mediocre category for right now, even though they've been bad. But, then you have some mediocre teams like UCF and Kansas playing good teams. What's the story of the Big 12 for you this week?
I am firmly on the BYU UCF game as a big story this week, because you see 3-4 UCF, 1-3 in the Big 12. Their one Big 12 win was a 21-point rally against Colorado. Right, and that was it. It was TCU. Who did UCF beat? Who am I thinking of?
TCU.
TCU. Yeah, they rallied against them. They rallied to beat TCU. Yeah. And then BYU obviously is 7-0, 4-0, but the line is UCF minus 2.5. And to be honest, Paul, like that makes a lot of sense, because talent-wise, especially on like the offense. I mean, defense. UCF's defense not very good, but the offense, there's still playmakers out there, and there's a different dimension with Ja'Cory Brown now. I mean, the running game for them is very, very good. And I feel like I've watched Gus Malzahn win this game a million times already, right? Classic, like, disappointing season, but big team plays Auburn and they win the game. Like, I've seen that happen before. So I feel like UCF's got a pretty good shot at that. And BYU, obviously, like, the metrics, the computers do not like them because, I mean, it's spitting out the number -2.5, and it's actually held steady recently. So it shows you, like, the computers are as skeptical as I am. I mean, they're good at winning games, but these are all, like, tight games. It's got a little bit of TCU vibe to it. They've had some blowout wins, but, like, it's got a little bit of TCU vibe to it. But they're just not as talented as that TCU team was that ran the table. So yeah, that game, I mean, I think BYU has the opportunity to lose multiple games in a row. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I agree with you, but it would not surprise me to see them lose like one of them and then find their way to the other one, because that's kind of what they've been doing. Yeah. They did it last week. They did it last week. Let's go to Oklahoma State and Baylor. Garrett Rangel played a magnificent game for Oklahoma State, and then he got hurt. And it was something maybe we didn't think with. I wonder why this wasn't more of what they were trying to do early on and like where it was, or if there was ever any true competition with Alan Bowman, or if they just said, okay, Alan's the starter again because he's back, for a 45th year in college football. But they look good. Then Rangel gets hurt. He's out for the year. They're back to square one.
And that defense, that last drive was horrific.
Yes, absolutely horrific. Baylor, on the other hand, had a renaissance all at once in Lubbock. It all came together. Sawyer Robertson was fantastic. Josh Cameron was great. They had special teams. They played a fairly complete game, and they held Tech in check as much as you can with that offense and with Taj Brooks and all that. This is homecoming here at Baylor. This one is 3-4 versus 3-4. Baylor's a 7-point favorite. Is this where Oklahoma State maybe gets put completely in the ground, or can they rally?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no clue what's going to happen in this game, because last week's result really came out of nowhere, and it makes you think, like, what does I was talking about this on my show this week? What does Dave Aranda have to do to save his job?
6 games.
You think it's going to take 6?
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, there's no, like, what is Baylor good at? Like, they're not particularly good at this. This is my big thing, is, like, I know winning is the bottom line, but I like for teams to have an identity, or, like, I love the way they curtail what they do to their personnel. Lance Leipold was a master at this at Buffalo, and he was a master of this the first few years at KU. Really, really good. No matter who the quarterback was, curtailing what they did to that, and that was part of the staff too. Baylor, to me, like, if they have a defensive-minded head coach, isn't the goal? And I know they have Jake Spavital in there, but, like, isn't the goal to play defense? Like isn't the Gary Bohannon team basically the dream, right? Just grind it out, run the football, play some defense, turn you over. Really develop players. Block it well up front, zone. Just all that stuff. And, like, last week, and it's great if they can start chucking the ball around again. That'd be wonderful. But I mean, we all watch Sawyer Robertson. It's not like he's been super consistent. He's talented, but, like, just not consistent. Yeah. So, I've been thinking, like, with the schedule they have, Paul, like, because they're not playing that many good teams. If they ran the table, he can keep it. If they go 2-3 the rest of the way, or I guess what do they need 3? They need 3-2 the rest of the way. Like, depends on how it looks, but, like, what you have to prove to me, you look like a functional team, like that has, like, ideas about, hey, this is what it looks like. I know Spavital's first year. I know it's hard to switch coordinators, but, like, what is it that Baylor does well? Is my big question.
Week to week, we have no idea. Like, everybody in the room shaking their head right now is like, well, I don't know. The good news for Baylor is that this is the part of the schedule where they can get those 3 wins. And here's the thing, if they don't find 3 wins out of Oklahoma State, TCU, Houston, Kansas, and West Virginia, then yeah, there needs to be a coaching staff change. Yeah. If you cannot find a way after you just played your best game in 2 long years If you cannot find a way after that
Right.
to win 3 more, then there has to be a change.
I mean, if it looks anything like it just did, like, then we're having a totally separate conversation, right? Like,
Yeah.
if they're like Tech's attacking people, and I mean, it's going to be on a smaller scale because Tech's defense is terrible and their offense is really good. So, like, you know, we're talking more about, hey, they dog Oklahoma State this week. You know, Bowman throws 2 or 3 picks, fumbles. You know, they're capitalizing, good long possessions with points, preferably touchdowns. We're having a different talk. But like what's recently, what has been proof that it happened? And look, seasons turn. Turn. I mean, how often do we see in pro and college football? Team X hits the Virginia Tech last year, right? They ended up they started ripping off wins, get to 7-6, and by the end of the year, were they playing like a 7-6 football team? No. So if it happens like that, then sure. I just it's just not been consistent enough for me, and I keep wondering like what they do well, because like 59-35, whatever it was last week, it's not a. I'm like, oh, that looks like a Dave Aranda performance, vintage right there. It's not what I thought. So I mean, if he wins different ways now, it's totally fine. Just keep winning, but identity is what I need, because if you look at them statistically, like numbers wise, they aren't really tops in any kind of category.
Yeah, absolutely. Tech goes to TCU this week. I think TCU's favored in this game.
Point.
And I mean, maybe for my end, I see Tech bouncing back. I think that they're in much better shape last week, notwithstanding, than TCU is. But maybe I'm wrong. Both these teams have been hard to pin down.
I'm seeing the total right now at 66.5. If you can bet that, I would.
Yeah.
That's a high number, but man,
yeah,
like the chances that this thing's a slugfest are very low. TCU has not been an effective team running the football this year. They're starting to rebound a little bit, right? They're starting to come to. The smelling salts have woken them up just a touch. They won 2 of their last 3. The Houston loss was bad, but like you grind out a 13-7 win. The problem, once again, is they can't really run the football. So they've basically become like the bad version of Texas Tech last year. They just chuck it a million times and like that was it. At least Tech's got the balance, the running to balance it out. But if you beat Tech, you're at 4 wins. You got Baylor on the road, which is a winnable game. Oklahoma State and Arizona come to you, and at Cincinnati. I mean, there is a chance. There is a path here to 8-9 wins for TCU. It hinges on them winning this game, but there is a path to 8 or 9 wins, in my opinion. But you know, this is a weird game. It's usually a pretty close game too. So I expect it to be pointsy. I think what was the spread? It's like 2.5. Is that correct? It is 6.5. Oh, TC is by 6.5. So I mean, that makes sense. A lot of points. So yeah, pointsy is what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And I like a home team. I like a home team in this situation, even though I think Texas Tech is probably more well-rounded. I think TCU's, it's kind of a moment for them. They need to get this thing done. But
yeah, they do. I think that I did a top 5 earlier this week that was like 2025 hot seat, and Sonny Dykes is on it in 2025.
Yeah, we don't know what the contract looks like, so I think, I mean, obviously it makes it, but they've got the money there to fire him.
Yeah, well, look, they're not like nobody's buyouts and all this stuff. Like that might buy you a year now.
Yeah,
like that probably buys you a year. It doesn't buy you 3 anymore. Like they used to, it would buy you 3 years. It'd be like, listen. Well, like basically, they'd be like, "Look, we're going to fire this clown." You know, I'm not saying it's Sonny Dykes. I actually think Sonny Dykes is an excellent coach, but like, you know, you know, they're like kind of give you like, "Look, we're going to fire this guy in 3 years." Like but like, look, we can't pay him $22 million right now.
Go away.
We can pay him 7. So like, we're just gonna have to write it out. But rebuilds take 5 years anyway. So
yeah,
you know, like, but that's not the case anymore. So I also don't understand. Like in Brent Venables' case, he got the like 6-year extension. Why not just up the money and not the years?
Well, if you up the money, because that'd make the buyout higher, wouldn't it? I mean,
if you don't extend, like the buyout goes higher because they have to pay out all those years, right?
The same salary over the course of time, yeah.
Give him a couple more years. Don't give him 6. Give him 2.
Well, coaching contracts don't make any sense as it is now.
No, they're negotiating against themselves.
I don't get it. It never makes sense.
It never makes sense. Like. Unless you are
somebody's coming for your coach.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If somebody is, you got to, I say, let him go. Because if he wants to leave, let him leave.
Yeah.
Like, just go get another one. Like I know that it's a hard thing to like build a program and you lose a coach and all this, but don't be so fatalistic. Like just use your brain, find a good coach. You know, the Lance Leipold's, Kalen DeBoers, and guys like that are out there, you know.
People don't like the pro. That's why A&M finally did the right thing, right? Like they fired the sexy name, and Jimbo, I mean, you know, he lost a little bit of his luster, but like they fired the big name coach they paid all the money to, and they got the guy who everybody's like, yeah, this guy's a good coach. And guess what? Texas A&M looks really well coached this year.
Yeah.
Don't they? They look like just a solid unit.
Yeah.
And like, do I think LSU's top side is higher than A&M's? Yeah, I do. But man, A&M's going to be a really tough out at home because the crowd, because they don't make a ton of mistakes. And it looks like Connor Wegman's playing a lot better than he was before. And like, I think a lot of schools are just afraid to go for guys like that. You know, it's like, I know it's pretty easy for Kirby Smart, you know, to say like, it looked great, you know, he's a Saban coordinator, whatever. But like 2 of the best hires have been made recently, Sark and Kirby.
Yeah.
Right? Just guys who it's like, these guys were really, really good. And guess what happened when they became head coaches? They're really, really good.
Yeah.
Because they kind of just went through what they had to go through and they came out the other side and they're ready to rock. And like, I think there's just kind of a desire to be like, let's interview John Gruden. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why would they interview John Gruden? We don't know if he can coach in college.
Yeah.
Why would they hire him, Edwards?
Somebody that's a bigger job than John Gruden deserves in college will interview him this offseason.
Right.
His agent will get that done because there's an AD out there that's worried about, like, I've not made a good look here. If John Gruden wants to coach in college, honestly, he needs to take a job at Southern Miss.
He can pick up Ted
like
Dilfer's job when they fire him this year.
Yeah, like he needs to go to UAB. Like he needs to prove it there. But there's going to be someone that's open in the ACC or in the Big Ten or somewhere like that that's going to be like, you know what? Let's bring him in here. Like that's my fear or my thought about that. It's like somebody's going to be like, you know what? This is the guy. They're going to lose their young coach. You know what wouldn't be surprised to see him go though? Because I think Jamie Chadwell's finally going to get a look. Decently somewhere in the P4, which I hope for, is Liberty.
You know, it's weird. So Liberty is because Chadwell had the chance, at least in my opinion, to go somewhere else at some point, right? I mean, he had to have. Liberty has got so much money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like such a stupid amount of money that they can pay Jamie Chadwell, I mean, whatever they damn please. And obviously they've paid him pretty well. So I'm wondering if he wants to leave. Like, there's so much security there. They're going to win like 11 games every year. You know, so I'm wondering, like, that'd be weird. John Gruden at Liberty. Good Lord. Could you imagine?
I would not be surprised to see it happen. I think somebody's going to come for Jamie Chadwell.
I'd love to see him at a variety of places. Where would you like to see Jamie Chadwell?
I would not like to see him at Florida because I think he'd do well there, and I hate them. But
I agree.
I don't think he's big enough name for them right now. But I would have liked to see him at Auburn instead of Hugh Freeze. I think that would have been a much more inspired hire. I would love to see him anywhere that opens in the Big 12. Honestly, like he'd be a great, like if Aranda leaves, he'd be a fantastic fit here. He really would. He's got this Scott Drew vibe. He's got a cool offense, like all those things that everybody likes. Now I think they'll go with a Texas guy if that happens here, but I would love to see, there's a lot of places I would love to see Jamie Chadwell.
Oh yeah.
Like even like a Wake Forest or something, I think he'd do well there. I think he'd do well. Although Dave Doran's done a good job, except for this year at NC State. There's a lot of places that he could do well. If Shane Beamer does well enough at Syracuse,
maybe how about this Virginia? I mean,
Yeah.
I know they're a little bit better than they normally are, but I'm still not even sure they're going to make a bowl. But like,
okay, look, I'll tell you this: Neil Brown's in trouble. Neil Brown's definitely in trouble.
He's dead. I mean, this team's got
It's this year or next year,
they didn't get any better.
Yeah.
Like that, isn't that so last year we watched them win all those games, right? They win 9 games plus the bowl, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're watching there is that it's like, oh, okay, like they're beating everybody they should beat. And they've got a quarterback who's clearly found his identity now. He's not like the accurate passer, but he's really effective because he can run. And basically with the other backs they have, you've got to account for all of their offense. It's a lot of space. The way that Josh Heupel's offense makes you cover all the parts of the field, like Garrett Green's ability and the way Neil Brown called it made you cover a lot of the field, and they blocked really, really well. And the receivers had a ton of time to get open. And you look this year, it's like all of these games where they had opportunities to beat teams that were better than that, or better than them, a weight class up. They did not pass those tests. Penn State's really good. Well, they lost by 22 at home. Pitt is pretty good. Well, you lost a game, honestly, you should have won in the shootout. Iowa State beat you by 2 scores, and Kansas State beat you by 27. So, like, every time you've kind of stepped up a weight class at all, because, I mean, their wins have come against Albany, who cares, KU by 4, and they've been in exclusively close games, and Oklahoma State you beat pretty badly, and they're not very good. So, like, they're not improving, and they're not better, and they're I mean, Avery Johnson, guys, tore him up through the air last week. And Avery Johnson, they're like, you know what, this is a great opportunity to see if we can get him going passing, because this is the weak part of their defense. And a guy who struggled passing lit him up. And that's really discouraging. So they didn't get any better, and I think it's a huge problem, and I think that Neil Brown's not going to last, because as fun as 9 wins was, I mean, he got lucky that the athletic director was new, I think, in my opinion. That's why he got to keep his job. And I love what they did last year, but they didn't build on it this year, and with mostly the same guys, especially on offense.
Yeah, and they've got an NIL collective that steps up for them when they need to. I mean, look what basketball's doing right now, getting guys in there. So, yeah, I think Jamie Chadwell at West Virginia makes a lot of sense, man. He would do very well there. Well, Josh, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy a Friday night without high school football. Live, damn it, live. Smell the flowers.
I'm gonna make my dinner on a Friday night tonight. I'll tell you what, guys, it's about the small things in life. It really is. Yeah, tonight I'm gonna sit down. I'm going to put on a really exciting UNLV Boise State football game.
Heck yeah.
And I'm going to chop up some spinach. Also, Boston College is playing Louisville. I'm going to chop up some spinach. I'm going to chop up some tomatoes. I'm going to put these $5, they're like chicken breasts, and they're preseason things from Kroger. Put those in the air fryer. I'm going to mix it all together and make a nice salad. All right. I'm going to crack a blue moon. I'm going to sit down on my couch and watch college players play, as opposed to on my phone being like, I wonder what the Oklahoma State score is, as I'm 2 hours away from Little Rock. So I'm very pleased. I'm looking forward to it tonight.
Enjoy it, Josh. Just drink it in like that blue moon.
I will. I love you guys.
All right. Love you too, Josh. Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
time for Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hey, it's Friday. It's the weekend. That means this is the last top 5 you get to see for 48 hours. Maybe 72. Not good at math. Went to Florida State. Obviously, we got to give thanks to our sponsor, Texas Beef House, TexasBeefHouse.com. Hey, speaking of giving thanks, it's almost November, and next time they have an auction, maybe you don't do turkey this year. Maybe you do steaks. So go to bidonbeef.com. Always use our promo code 365sports. There's always a discount involved when it comes to using that promo code, whatever the auction is. So go to bidonbeef.com and find out about it. And no knock to turkeys, but maybe spare one this year. You'll feel good about yourself. Spare turkeys. Kill a cow. Absolutely. Today's top 5 scary offenses. Last day. My gosh, it's Friday. I'm losing my mind. Scary offenses, after we did the defenses, had to follow it up with offenses that are problematic for everyone they play. Number 5, Indiana. They walloped Nebraska, scored 56 points. They're putting points on points on points on everybody. They've had one close game, and that was against Northwestern, but they hit the pedal to the floor in the fourth quarter. And if you look at that score, you would think it was not a close game the entire time. Curt Cignetti has them as confident as they have ever been in Bloomington when it comes to not round ball, when it comes to the oblong pigskin. Indiana, fantastic. The Hoosiers rolling along. They play Washington this week. No Curtis Rourke, and he's been a huge part of it. Been an excellent passer this year. They got a great running game, but I don't expect too much of a drop-off this week from that offense because the line is good, the receivers are good, the running game is good. They should still put up some points. Maybe not as much as if Curtis Rourke was there, and he should only be out for a couple weeks, but they should score some points again for the Hoosiers this week. Number 4, Boise State. And when I mean Boise State, I mean Ashton M.F. Genty. This dude is offense all to himself. He has personally outgained several teams in the country this year. We don't need to mention which ones. But Boise State is fantastic. It's not all because of him, though. They've been good in other aspects. Now, they're not prolific passing the ball, but they're very balanced. They're about 200 yards plus or minus, a couple on either side of that each week. So they run a perfectly balanced offense, and they have the best offensive weapon that we've maybe seen since Barry Sanders coming out of the backfield, and he is absolutely an assault on that record. Please draft him, Cowboys. You've drafted so many Boise State players. Vander Esch, Skandrick, all of them. This guy, Kellen Moore. You've done them all. Please, Cowboys, draft this guy. Please, 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 please. Don't let anybody else have it. Was that pathetic? It was a little pathetic. I don't care if it's pathetic. I'm desperate. Number 3, North Texas. Eric Morris has this offense a humming. Chandler Morris, who lost the job to Max Duggan at TCU, eventually then lost it again last year to Josh Hoover, had to transfer, just didn't fit in Fort Worth. He moves a short way away up I-35 to Denton, and Eric Morris has absolutely found and unlocked the key of this North Texas offense this year. They are scoring points. They're lethal in every single game. You have to watch out for the Mean Green on offense this year. They're going to put up points on you. Now, their defense, much like teams that run this kind of offense, not a whole lot to write home about, but pretty efficient. And when you're having to score 45 every week just to keep pace, it's hard to have, hard to need a legit, huge defense. But North Texas and Eric Morris doing some great, great things this year. Number 2, Ole Miss. One of the best offenses in the country, except when they seem to play better teams. I know that some of the stats are kind of out of whack because their early season schedule was so easy. But Trey Harris is putting up Heisman-like numbers. They need to get him to get fully healthy soon. They've got really good running backs in Bentley and Parrish. And they've got Jackson Dart, who's been fantastic. Expect to see Juice Wells get more involved in the coming weeks as Trey Harris fights through his injuries. That should be very, very interesting. But Ole Miss really scared pre-scoring the tight end. They've got a great offensive line. And Jackson Dart, while they have not reached their full potential of this year, and in the not now win Rebels, they're still a really fun offense to watch week in and week out. And number 1, Miami. And there's Cam Ward. You notice I scratch my forehead and do this with Cam Ward because he's flipped the ACC on its ear. Miami was in the desert for a quarter of a century almost, and then Cam Ward comes along and has buoyed this offense. If they don't get him, they probably don't get Damian Martinez, and they probably don't get some of the wide receivers they got, even though he was one of the last ones in. Those guys might have left after spring, given they did not have an answer at quarterback. He has been 1-1 with Shedeur Sanders as best quarterback in the country, has completely transformed an offense that was god-awful for the last couple years under Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson. Shannon Dawson getting talked for head coaching jobs now. After an abysmal offense last year, now he and Cam Ward are a match made in heaven, and holy cow, are the Canes fantastic on that side of the ball. Not as good on defense as you would think, but so far it hasn't mattered because of this dude right here, Heisman candidate Cam Ward. That's going to do it for the top 5. Have a great weekend, everybody.